Alright, let's get started. I'm here. Don't worry about it. It's coming. I'm just untangling my headphones and getting in here because I've been under my desk. Feeling mighty good. Hold on right now. Coming to you quick in the middle of the day. Hi. Happy Hump Day. Thanks for joining me. Welcome to Hal Sparks Megaworldwide. What do you think about titling the show that way so it's easier to tell people about it? What do you think? I think Hal Sparks Megaworldwide works since the radio program is... I don't know, it's a thought. I'm just running it by there. I've been adding it to the title subtly, but I feel like, you know, it's something that it's a little easier for the folks in the media punditry world, which I'm going to be crossing the streams with in the near future, might, you know, give them something instead of just going like Hal Sparks on its live stream. You know what I mean? Give it a little bit of, a little oomph, a little, hello, you know, just so that we all have something along those lines. I think that works. Yeah. Hi, everybody in YouTube land. Hi, and congratulations, Victory Shout, New Zealand, for having a prime minister who knows how to deal with horribleness. I think you guys had one case and she shut the fucker down again. She's like, nobody's coming in. We're fine. Thank you. You stay over there in a house for 14 days. Everybody else, we'll wait till you guys are clear again, and then we're not gonna fuck around with this nonsense. So I appreciate our New Zealander friends, our Kiwis down there, for having the foresight to recognize a real problem and deal with it. Speaking of recognizing a real problem and dealing with it, I'm going to be one of the few people you're going to see on almost any form of media, it seems, to unequivocally say, I stand by what Joe Biden is doing. I understand his reasoning. I respect it. I find the situation that we were in Afghanistan untenable, that every solution that was given always added 3 to 5 months to 10 months, and then it went on and on and on and on, and nobody can convince me, after the swift fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban, that we were doing anything but standing at a dam with our fingers in the holes that were breaking, going, when do I get to run? So, just for a variance of opinion, you know, we always look for a diversity of opinion out there. And right now, it seems left to right, like everybody is happy blaming Biden for cleaning up the mess everyone handed him. Especially the Trump fans, who magically seem to create this fantasy that Trump's exit would have been it would have been gorgeous, gold leaf toilets, that whole business. And yet, all 4 years, he did fuck all. His biggest move to get troops out of the country happened because he was trying to get them all out randomly by election day, because he was desperate against Joe Biden. I'm not buying any of it. I'm not buying the we coulda, we shoulda. I'm not buying they shoulda known. I'm not buying that they could have come out in public. This is the part that drives me nuts, and I see this so often. The Pentagon was giving this rosy picture the last couple of months from the Biden administration, while behind the scenes they were starting to work on more visas and set this date. Well, first of all, the date was known since Biden became president. You know, like, I think it was 2 weeks later he announced the 9/11 anniversary as the absolute window. The idea was being out a couple of weeks earlier. That's exactly the time scale we are on right now. And knowing full well, the whole thing was fucked into a cocked hat. So this idea that somehow they were going to come out in June, when they knew that the Afghan government was paper thin, that Trump had pulled the rug out from under them and the military last year when he negotiated a peace deal between the Taliban and us to not shoot our soldiers and as we leave, and didn't involve the Afghan government. At that point, there was like a tacit understanding that the president of the United States last year said, "Look, we know you guys are going to have the country next year. Just don't shoot our troops as we leave." And all processes started that way. He even got the dude who's running the Taliban right now out of jail from Pakistan to negotiate the deal. So can we stop pretending that there was ever a red carpet velvet rope version of leaving Afghanistan. This fantasy is bugging the shit out of me. It is unrealistic to the point of childish, and it is exactly why the 20 years happened, because we were doing these 3, 5, 10-month punts all the goddamn time. Now, we also find out, and I don't know why this isn't factoring into everybody else's thinking, we also find out that the generals were painting a relatively rosy picture, knowing on the ground that the troops and the training guys who were there, who are largely hired hands, they're not military, they're contractors. They were relaying to their superiors like, these fucking guys aren't learning anything, and the ones that are making deals with the Taliban to turn sides as soon as the shit hits the fan. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And then middle of last year, during COVID, they can't even do the training exercises with these guys, allegedly, who, whether they wanted to help them or not, because there's no mask mandate, there's no vaccination. This was in the middle of fucking COVID. So our soldiers were having to put themselves up against a deadly virus to train people who were either not going to use the training or were going to use it on behalf of the Taliban. And at what point, so we know we're leaving. We know that September 11th is the day. We're out, right? This has been an established number. It was May 1st by Trump, and we punted it so that we could get some of the VICs out, the CIVs out, the special immigrant visas. Getting those folks out became the priority, but still within that timeline, because if we keep punting the timeline, those people keep staying. A bunch of those people were like, I'll stay here until you're absolutely leaving, and then I'm going. So, or they start applying and it takes a long time. They waited till this year or even last year to start their visa application. By the way, a visa they never had to use once they had it. So in many ways, when Trump came into office, we could have processed almost all these people in 4 years. And those folks could have left the country if and when we decided to pull our troops out at the day. The fact that we are playing catch up with these visas is proof that the Trump administration did fuck all. Now, we're dealing with a situation where, Afghanistan is a country for the Afghans, and that is something that they have to work out. But we have been talking about leaving for years. And so this, mad dash to the airport by some folks is a little mind-boggling. And I'm sure that the Afghans who, over the last 3 years in particularly, have started moving into Iran and other surrounding countries because they can see the writing on the wall. Those people are probably looking at the folks at the Kabul airport who aren't embassy staff and going, you thought they were staying forever? Now, in this particular situation, 7 months in, Biden has looked at this, and we now know the intelligence assessment that he got about 2 months ago was that the generals and I guess the next tier down from them as far as who's handling in terms of the contractors, I don't know what their referential person is that they report in there, but those guys were all telling the truth about what was happening. And the guys above them were going, it's okay, we're fine. We just need a little more time, a little more money, some more weapons, and we're cool. Just give us a little, 3 more months, 6 more months, we'll seriously lock down. And Biden gets an IC briefing that says, yeah, that's bullshit. Yeah, that's the same bullshit we've heard for years. It hasn't changed. It's not going to change. There is not a day where these guys are going to stand up to the Taliban in any strong way in terms of protecting the fucking country. And it might be 3 months from now or 5 months from now, but 10 months from now, but there is no there. And that's when he made the decision to lock into this date by hook or by crook and use it as, to kind of motivate the folks that are going to come with us, those special immigrant visa folks, to start leaving for real. Because a lot of them were dragging their feet. That's what he meant when he said some of them don't want to go. So this idea that there's a version of reality where this somehow would have worked with anybody in charge, much less, certainly not Trump, who never tried, and somehow Biden should know better, and if we'd only, it'd get better, and therefore, the minute we started leaking people out of the country on those visas, and the word starts to spread about who's getting their papers in order and who's filing these visas over a protracted amount of time. Let's say we push this off to Christmas, and over the next 6 months, the Taliban has already taken the area, or is starting to take the area, because the Afghan government's not going to do anything. They know this, but we punt to make this. We're going to hold the Kabul airport and a road from the center of Kabul to that. And we start bringing out these folks. That's just 6 more months of them targeting these families and these people inside the country. This was always going to be an escape. I, honest to God, am so sick and tired of the backseat driving part of this when we're finally getting out. Especially by the people who, when they were backseat driving this in the first place, were always like 3 more months, 5 more months, 10 more months. And we now know from the people who served there on the ground, they just interviewed a contractor on the news, and he was like, yeah, this is a lost cause. This is not, nothing's changing. We've been working with these guys for years, and nothing is changing. So why do you leave troops there? Why do you put soldiers in a country that doesn't want us there? There's not a functioning government that will exist without us. And it's amazing to me the number of people who decry colonization all the time, who are saying, we need to invade right now. We need to get back in there. We need a lot more people to protect this thing that we built, right? And if we don't, at least we can steal their women. We can fly all the women out of the country. This is a horrible, complex situation. And the folks that are treating it like, 3 more months would have solved it, it's just brutal. We can protect those that sided with us and get them out. We can certainly extend visas to women who are in power there, in journalism positions and in other areas, and threaten the Taliban, which we are clearly doing, with violent strikes on camps that they have throughout, and going, this as part of our war on terror, we mean you. So if you start fucking around too much and we see a Nanking type of situation, understand we're not going to put boots on the ground again, but you can be damn sure there's going to be a lot of buzzing of drones over you and a lot of explosions. They're hearing that. Whether or not they'll hold is sort of none of our business. I mean, and none of these people are suggesting that we invade areas held by Boko Haram and set up a military base and handhold the government. So the conversation about this that offends me the most, I think, is this ridiculous idea that somehow there was going to be a magical outcome. Oh, and on the Trump side of things, that if Trump was in, it would have been a lot better. He would have done a lot better at the thing he could have tried but never did. And why did he never try it? Same reason he tried to pull troops out before the election. Because he wanted to say, we're out, I don't care. Because if the shit had hit the fan November 4th, it's too late. You already voted for him for getting the troops out a day ago. And they still were banking on it would take 5 to 10 months. He was getting the same advice. But the art of the deal told him that if I talk to the Taliban, they don't shoot our folks, we won't have any dead soldiers, so nobody will give a rat's ass about the people of Afghanistan, especially the SIV folks. Does anybody think Trump was really interested in saving the translators and the guides that worked with us? He didn't even want to take people, American citizens with COVID, off a fucking cruise ship because it would add 62 to his number. So I'm not having it. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who are. You can find all over the news plenty of people who are wringing their hands and gnashing their teeth and flipping out about this whole fucking thing and saying it coulda, shoulda, woulda. I don't buy it. I'm not going to buy it. And if this is the only place you get that perspective, cool. I have done my duty. You can factor that into your thinking and process it with all the other stuff you know, and judge based on that. And while you're making a judgment about what I'm saying, you do know that way back behind your eyeballs, halfway through your brain, in the functioning part, you largely think the same thing. So, yeah, good luck with that. Okay, so that's I'm just going to stay. I'm going to state that I also stick to my prediction that they're going to shut down. That Biden's going to shut down Guantanamo. And by the time he gets around to it, it will be such a news story that and with the same wailing and gnashing of teeth by the people who are freaking out right now, that they'll forget about Afghanistan. They'll forget what they were clamoring about, because 3 months will have passed and we'll be on to the next story. So that's that. Now, just because that's true does not mean that there's not plenty of stupid to go around. And Trump was on, I think, Sean Hannity's show. Oops. Oh, that's not good. Hold on. Why did you start? Okay, there it is. That made me nervous. I was like, fixing an audio problem in the middle of this is something, but fixing a video problem, that's a whole other thing. I don't know. Who needs that shit? But here, Sean Hannity, I guess, seen here interviewing a pencil with ears, got to talk to the former guy, and in person. Maria Bartiromo only got a phone call, but Sean got a sit down, and I can't imagine the amount of air freshener they needed for this interview. I have not watched it. I have not even watched a clip of it. I refuse to, because I don't need to watch anything that this asshole or Trump says twice. I just don't. Sometimes I have to, for work. Speaking of work, next Wednesday I'm at Flappers in Burbank doing a show live there in the showroom, and everyone must be vaccinated. You have to have proof of vaccination to come to the show. Monday, I'm doing a Zoom show for Flappers. You don't need any proof of vaccination for that because it's your house. Okay, here we go.
Thank you. President Trump, mere moments away, but first...
Mere moments, not near moments, but sure.
Joining us, former CIA station chief, Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman, former White House chief of staff Mark...
Heavy on the former.
Meadows. I saw that Mike Pence said Biden broke our deal. I've noticed, Mark Meadows, that...
Which deal was he talking about? The one where a bunch of Trump fans build a gallows? Mark, you were there for that deal. Did you it's kind of like your time in the White House. You brought the wood.
Joe Biden has tried to blame this on, let's see, the president of Afghanistan.
He went through the same checklist yesterday.
Troops in Afghanistan.
He still thinks it's a big deal.
That he assured us were very capable of easily defeating the Taliban.
No, he said they had the capability. It's up to them.
And then when all else fails, he blames President Trump.
Well, that kind of works for almost everything. You know what I mean? Unless you've been cock-blocked at a party, because that Trump has never been guilty of that. Seriously. I mean, Ed Asner could have scored with Tawny Kitaen if Trump was at a party.
I have a number of sources that have told me...
And he deserves it, because he's a lovely man.
That...
She was lovely, too. Rest in peace, Tawny Kitaen.
extraordinarily harsh.
Yes, I fixed the echo. You noticed. Thanks for noticing, guys.
And very clear language was used from President Trump. I'll ask him about it in a minute.
I'm sure he'll remember.
Taliban, if they dared step one foot into any other region than that was in part of the agreement. Can you confirm or deny that?
I don't even know what the fuck you said. If they dared step foot into an area that wasn't part of the agreement, when? Till August 10th? Check the fucking calendar, man.
I can confirm that. I can tell you that President Trump, you'll get to hear from him in just a few minutes. But
yeah, they're plugging some holes, and he's doing a rail of Adderall.
I can tell you that he was not only straightforward in his conversations with the Taliban.
Well, yeah, who did he talk to? Who was part of the Taliban? Who was it? Who did he bring in? Some dude who was in prison in Pakistan, who's now in charge of the Taliban, who was in jail up until these talks.
But he was very clear that if any U.S. citizen, any U.S. asset, any U.S. personnel was actually harmed.
By asset, you mean personnel also, or stuff? Because obviously, a lot of times they were destroying American assets.
Or in harm's way because of the Taliban, he would...
In harm's way, yeah. If they're just downwind from a fart.
The full force and might of the Department of Defense really...
Yeah, that's not true. We were not going to nuke fucking Afghanistan if somebody was downrange from a stray bullet. What are you talking about?
With them as the bullseye of that target. I can tell you that also that for the blame...
They didn't know where they were. I mean, but okay.
Blame to go for President Trump. Not only did we take the withdrawal from Afghanistan and do it on a more measured process.
Yeah, you measured the political ramifications of doing it while he was president and decided to push it off to, in theory, let's see if you would ever... I do not agree that his May 1st deadline would have been met. There is no reason to believe, based on the first 4 years of the Trump administration, that the second 4 years, if they existed, and they don't, would have been any different.
What we also is put a blueprint out there for Biden to actually follow so that no one was in harm's way.
No one. It's Afghanistan.
One key point. You don't take out and withdraw and leave 10,000 U.S. citizens there. You get this kind of debacle that we have right now, and it's nothing short of incompetence. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's a lack of actually acting on that intelligence.
Yeah, that's words. Yeah, it's not a lack of intelligence. This is the actual face he's making inside when he hears himself speak. It's not a lack of intelligence, it's a lack of acting on that intelligence. He got intelligence that the generals had largely been blowing smoke up everyone's ass for the last 10 years specifically, and said, everything you tell me, I cannot trust. I will trust the guys on the ground who are saying, this is unwinnable, we're getting the fuck out. And this is the same shit we went through with Vietnam.
Intelligence that was so troubling.
And it wasn't followed at all, but it was laid out. Dan Hoffman.
How was it laid out? Sean, tell us how it was laid out. I mean, you got a picture of a guy on a truck, and a couple guys on a truck. It's obviously part of the Forestry Service. This is the Taliban Forestry Service. They're going on a big tree planting in the desert. This is the Taliban's version of 4-H. But you could fill... see, it says Kabul, Afghanistan. You could fill this window with, I don't know... You got Mark Meadows here. He probably has access to this. You probably seen it because it was half your idea, and Trump never thought of anything of his own. I don't know when he's speaking. But you could have filled that window with, say, a directive memo that explains the process that Trump and the administration had laid out, right? In theory, if it existed, why not put it on the screen? Perhaps he will. Let's find out.
I've got to believe years from now we'll be studying how is it possible the President of the United States and our intelligence agencies could have been telling us last week, oh, they're even though they've taken over 60% of the country, they're 60 or 90 days away from ever getting anywhere near Kabul. I was hearing that last week. How could you be so wrong?
Well, they weren't wrong. They were just doing a public message that backed the government, because coming out and saying, yeah, they're fucked, I don't know why these assholes don't fly out tonight, would have certainly expedited the Taliban's taking of it. It would have squunched that 9 days into 3. So I've heard this a bunch from a bunch of people too. At what point does and I know we want truth from our government and that kind of stuff, but when it comes to shit like this, what is the messaging that you can say out loud about the current state of the Afghan government a week ago and the forces that wouldn't totally gut the place and make people start running for the exits like crazy and making the process even more chaotic, even more dangerous, and would tip the Taliban that a bunch of people were trying to leave at that moment? This is the same thing with setting it back a few months or adding a couple of months. This trickle account, so that the word can leak out slowly, and neighbors informing on neighbors that they're packing bags. He certainly was making a lot of late night phone calls. Go watch The Spy. I think it's on, is it on Netflix? Yeah. It's the Sacha Baron Cohen movie about the Israeli spy. Go watch the final episode. Just honestly. And then that's why the Pentagon and why the State Department's not going to come out and go, fuck, this is a shit show. You know what I mean? Like, I give them 2 days. When our people are still in country. What do you, I don't even, like, there's a difference between what they tell the president and what they tell the public, because the public isn't just us. The public is a message to the world, and especially if you're trying to keep a government that's unstable as stable as possible for as long as possible, so you can start to get your fucking people out. And if you can make the Taliban think eventually that you can, you're going to be there for another 3 weeks and it's going to work out or whatever, when in reality you're getting out in a week, and you keep the government from collapsing in that time so that you can do it safely as best you can, which is the goal at the time. And even though it's the goal, you can't guarantee that that Ghani's not going to leave the country with $129 million. Piss off. This is the same bullshit that goes, why don't they just open up the voting machines? Just show us the software. Show us the hardware. Also, show China the software. Show China the hardware. Show, like, Iran. Show ICE. Why don't you just post the software online? I don't understand the reasoning here. It's just fucking goofy.
How can Biden tell the country that he had all this confidence in this Afghan military?
Because if he told them, the country, he didn't. The world hears that, including the Taliban, and they're like, oh, they're already leaving. This is fucked up. Let's take everything. And I mean, we don't even have to worry about it. The Americans are not going to back these folks at all. They think they're assholes anyways. Well, the American government has ceased to recognize the government of Afghanistan, is what they would hear. That's why you don't go out and fucking say that. This is just dumb.
When in fact, there was no confidence to be had at all.
Right. They had no confidence. But if they were going to get anybody out relatively safely and start that process, they were going to have to talk like this.
How do you mess up that badly?
You don't. That's what you have to do in that circuit. It's a grown-up decision.
You've been in intelligence for decades.
And yet never experienced it yourself. Thank you, Jay.
I mean, we knew all of this, and I absolutely expect that there will be a lot of hearings to follow. And
if we knew all of this, but we were saying something else, it was for a reason. Because we are leaving. If we knew all of this and we were fucking staying, what would everyone be saying? If we knew, think about what he just said. Think about what this drives me friggin' nuts. What did he just say? We knew all this. We knew it was a shit show. We knew the Taliban was going to roll right over these assholes. 666 in the super chat. Everybody, popping. Do what you can. If you can't do anything, you're still welcome. At what point, think about what he's arguing. We knew they were going to fall. We knew the government was shit. We knew it was run by kleptocrats who were going to flee the country with millions. There's the Interpol's after him. They're going to get the money back. And it's not going to go to Afghanistan, by the way. It's going to come back to us, and then we're going to dole some of it out as aid, but we're not going to give it to the Taliban. It's just stupid. And just get used to that idea. But we know this. He just said we knew this was going to happen. So stay? Risk more American lives? For what? This is so odd.
Expect Director CIA Burns and DNI Avril Haines to be on the hot seat testifying before Congress and explaining exactly what sort of intelligence assessment they were providing the president. But
they provided him with a proper one. What they told him was, the generals are bullshitting you. There is no there, and he acted on that intelligence. He did not act on the press releases. It should surprise no one who's been watching any television lately or has a Netflix subscription that while the Air Force was telling everyone that Roswell was a weather balloon, they were tracking lights in the sky. See what I mean?
let's make it clear. It wasn't exactly a secret that the government of Afghanistan lacked a bit of legitimacy. Only
a bit.
2 million people voted in their last election. That's a country of roughly 40 million people. There were significant problems with their military, but as we've all noted repeatedly during the past few days, it was when this administration chose to withdraw our forces and the air power in particular, shut down Bagram Air Force Base. That's what put our mission at risk in Afghanistan.
Our mission? No, it did not put our mission at risk. It said, our mission is done. We can do anti-terrorism strikes in conjunction with the UN and Interpol and other organizations, and we can supply aid to a country without being there. We do it in a bunch of other fucking countries. Grow up.
And that's what produced.
Nathan in our super chat says, Hal's right. The State Department is never going to say, listen, this is going to fall regardless of what we do, so we're out. Yeah, because you're just going to get more people killed. Raphael, thank you. Another reason is hypercritical to keep the House and Senate because these assholes are going to try to impeach Biden on this horse dung. It'll never work. Thank you, though. Thank you, Grant, and thank you, Jake.
What we have now, which is a fog of war. We
Tiberius,
don't have overhead reconnaissance.
Fog of war? Dude, the fog of war is clearing.
And
the fog of war would mean to take your advice, which is, we know it's not working and we know it's shit and the government isn't legitimate. Only 2 million people voted out of the entire fucking country. And we do know from people on the ground that the soldiers are either not going to be able to fight or not capable of fighting back. And by the way, they have as many generational people in this fight in the Afghan armed forces as we do. There are Taliban fighters who weren't born. Most of the guys who were in the streets were like 4 years old when this war fucking started. The same, you know, our soldiers, we've had fathers serve and then their sons and daughters serve in the first place. So have the Afghan military forces. This has been going on and on. But what he's trying to tell you is, look, we know it's a shit show. We know the government is a paper tiger. We also know the armed forces are either not up to the task or don't fucking want to, or are flat out joining the Taliban. Any information we're giving them, they're giving to the Taliban. So we're not. That's why we stopped giving information, by the way. That's why we stopped giving the air support information to those Afghan forces farther down in the south. Because they were just spreading the information. What? Why would you give it to them if they're just going to give it to more people who are going to kill the ones that are actually trying to help? It's so dumb.
Intelligence assets to collect intelligence on the threats to our people and country, nor do we have the ability
we weren't ready to leave.
Yeah, the idea is that we're not going to have people in country anymore. That's why we shut the base down. We're fucking leaving.
Them to the airport safely.
If we weren't ready to do this, and conditions on the ground were the main criteria for President Trump's drawdown.
Yeah, conditions on the ground. That would never change. Art of the deal.
An ultimate change.
By the way, there's nothing in there that actually is actionable in his peace deal.
Over.
Just that, you know, he just thinks he's talking to another thug, so he threatened them.
But I got to run right now.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to talk to the dude. I mean, you could talk to a former CIA head, and I'm sorry, sir, I don't know what you do for a living, but you could talk to them forever. I mean, let's just, after the show, grab a beer. Joyce, thank you so much for the HSRPM weekday edition. Thank you.
We do have the president on the line. Thank you both. Mark Meadows, Dan Hoffman, joining us now.
Why couldn't I do this by phone?
Live is the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, thank you for being with us. Let me go back.
You're in the Trump library, I see.
I want to get
3 fuckable flags right behind you.
I've had a number of people tell me that there were very specific conditions and very specific warnings that you gave personally to the Taliban. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden is trying to blame you. I want first to give you an opportunity to respond to that, your assessment of what's going on, and what was that conversation to the extent you feel you're able to share it with us?
Oh, with the Taliban? Yeah, tell us what you said to the Taliban and what they said. And by the way, hold on. If I may, I'm probably going to need to do this, so give me 1 second. Let's see. Let's see. Text of Trump Taliban peace agreement. State Gov, February 29th, 2020. Here you go. Here, this is the deal, by the way, just in case, before we start into this bullshit. Shall we? Can we, do you mind? Let's see. How do you close the slide? Like, whatever. All right. Agreement for bringing peace to Afghanistan between the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is not recognized by the United States as a state known as the Taliban in the United States of America. So we don't recognize you, but we will make a deal with you, but maybe not. A comprehensive peace agreement is made of 4 parts. Guarantees enforcement mechanisms that will prevent the use of the soil of Afghanistan by any group or individual against the security of the United States and its allies, like don't let Al-Qaeda grow back in there. Guarantees enforcement mechanisms and announcement of a timeline for the withdrawal of all forces from Afghanistan. After the announcement of guarantees for a complete withdrawal of foreign forces and timeline in the presence of international witnesses, because, you got Carl, are you watching this? All right. And guarantees and the announcement in the presence of international witnesses that Afghan soil will not be used against the security of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is not recognized by the United States as a state and is known as the Taliban, will start intra-Afghan negotiations with Afghan sides. With Afghan sides? It should be the fucking government, but it isn't. Boy, does this how would this make you feel if you were in the Afghan government to read this text coming across your desk? Sides, the other tribes. Kind of like the government, and then other, Pakistani warlords that drift into the area. With Afghan sides on March 2020, which corresponds to Rajab 15, 1441 on the Hijri lunar calendar, and Hoot 20, 1398 on the Hijri solar calendar, because, you don't have the app. A permanent and comprehensive ceasefire will be an item on the agenda of the intra-Afghan dialogue and negotiations. Of course. Tell them. Part 1. The United States is committed to withdraw from Afghanistan military forces, the United States allies, coalition partners, including all non-diplomatic civilian personnel. That means that's our embassies, folks. All of it gone. Private security contractors, trainers, advisors, and supporting personnel within 14 months following announcement of this agreement, and will take the following measures in this regard. We will reduce the number of U.S. forces in Afghanistan to 8,600 and proportionally bring the number of its allies down. The United States, its allies, coalition will withdraw all their forces from 5 military bases. Like Bagram, for example. By the way, how many months ago is February of last year? With the commitment, the United States, its allies, coalition will completely withdraw remaining forces, remaining bases. The United States is committed to start immediately to work with all the relevant sides, which apparently does not include the government of Afghanistan, on a plan to expeditiously release combat and political prisoners as a confidence-building measure. What do you know? We'll tell you what, we're going to release a shit ton of rape gang leaders and murderers and guys who built IEDs against our own troops and the leader you want to run the Taliban when you take over the country. Hi, Baghdad. Up to 5,000 prisoners of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is not recognized by the United States as a state, and the Taliban and whatnot. And up to 1,000 prisoners of the other side will be released by March 10th. The other side? We have What do you mean? We have 1,000 prisoners of captured Afghan government? Oh, it's weird. The first day of intra-Afghan negotiations with correspondent. Okay, then the start of intra-Afghan negotiations, the United States will initiate an administrative review of current U.S. sanctions and the rewards list against members of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is not recognized by the United States as a state and is known as the Taliban. There you go. All right. They're going to talk about Part 2. In conjunction with the announcement of this agreement, the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is not recognized by the United States as a state, is known as the Taliban, will take the following steps to prevent any group or individual, including Al-Qaeda, from using the soil of Afghanistan to threaten the security of the United States and its allies. The Islamic Emirate, which is not recognized as a state and is now known as the Taliban, will not allow any of its members or other individual group, including Al-Qaeda, to use the soil of Afghanistan to threaten the security of the United States. So they have to be kind of jumping in the middle of the air when they give orders. So as long as they're not standing on the ground, they're fine. I don't think that includes poppies or anything. The Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is not recognized by the state and is known as Taliban, will not provide visas, passports, travel permits, or other legal documents to those who pose a threat to the security. Well, it doesn't matter. We're not going to honor any of them anyways. The United States will request the recognition and endorsement of the United Nations Security Council for this agreement. The United Nations and Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan is not recognized by the United States will seek economic cooperation for reconstruction with the new post-settlement Afghan Islamic government as determined by the infra... Oh, so this is a foregone conclusion. That's nice. No wonder Ghani split and said, fuck off. This is how it ends. The United States will seek economic cooperation for reconstruction with the new post-settlement Afghan Islamic government as determined by the intra-Afghan dialogue and negotiation will not intervene in its internal affairs. So if you want to, however the negotiations go, if you go in there and you guys play a game of Uno and winner gets territory, or if you just start lopping off heads, we're not really going to give a shit. Signed in Doha, Qatar on February 29, 2020. In duplicate in Pashto, Dari, and English languages, each text being equally authentic. This is the deal. Let's see. I want to scroll back to this. Anything I missed other than don't let Al-Qaeda do shit anymore. Which, yeah, sure, bro. Like, I don't know how they answer that. The Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is not will prevent any group or individual in Afghanistan from threatening the security of the United States and its allies. So the death to America stuff, it's kind of a deal breaker. The other day when they were yelling about that, when they yelled death to America. I guess that's it. That would fall under they're breaking the agreement. I'm shocked. Is known as the Taliban, is committed to deal with those seeking asylum or residence in Afghanistan according to international migration law and commitments of this agreement, so that such persons do not pose a threat to the security of the United States and its allies. Yeah, so just let Al-Qaeda, don't let Al-Qaeda do anything on your soil, but let them all come in there and they can just stay there as long as they never try to leave. So fucking weird. And nothing's enforceable. Because it certainly isn't. I knew every detail of this deal.
Well, it's good to be with you, Sean, but it's a terrible time for our country. I don't think in...
Why? Because we're not staying?
All of the years our country has ever been so humiliated. I don't know, would you call it a military defeat or a psychological defeat?
I don't know. I don't feel defeated. And on a military level, what we were there to do was limit Al-Qaeda's ability to grow. They have 500 people in the country right now. And get Osama bin Laden. We did that. Our troops served honorably, especially the ones who tried in vain to try and help this country get on its feet and protect the women that were there getting an education and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, 38 million people, well, 36, because 2 million voted. Half of them, I guess, voted with the Taliban, so 37 and 36 and change, let's say. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
There's never been anything like what's happened here.
Well, yeah, in the last 20 years, there has not been anything like us getting the fuck out of Afghanistan.
It's, you can go back to Jimmy Carter with the hostages. We all thought that was a great embarrassment, and
No, we now know that was a manipulation by Reagan going in, and it was actually very similar to the shit you tried.
we were pulled out of that by Ronald Reagan. This is...
We were pulled out of that, were we? We were pulled out of it. That's what we did. We just traded, guns and drugs and money to shuffle around to just hang on to them a little while, and then I'll get them out.
many times worse.
Just keep them in there so I can embarrass Carter for the last couple weeks of the campaign, and then I'll do a magic trick.
And you're dealing with thousands and thousands of Americans and others that are stranded and very dangerously, really stranded. And
they're stranded and very dangerously stranded. There's a lot of stranding going on. I mean, it's like everyone's living castaway on a rooftop. And what Biden's solution is? Passing out volleyballs with bloody handprints on them? Who thinks up this shit? Thanks, Jake. Because the COVID-19 pandemic hasn't been a humiliating time for our country. Yeah, this asshole sat by his 500,000+ people died.
Afghanistan. So it's something that you can't even believe that a thing like this could. I looked at that.
Why would you not believe this could happen? Again, we now know the intelligence from the generals was a bunch of puffery, was smoke and mirrors, because the guys on the ground were going, this is fucked. We need to get out of here.
Big
Oh my gosh. Sorry to hear that, Amy.
monster cargo plane yesterday with people grabbing the side and trying to get flown out of Afghanistan because of their fear, their incredible fear, and they're blowing off the plane from 2,000 feet up in the air.
They're blowing off. They're blowing. I see. I thought they were just up in the air going, you know what, fuck you.
It's nobody's ever seen anything like that. That blows the hell.
Well, no, I mean, arguably the thing that got us into that has some similarities, as in people falling off of the Twin Towers on 9/11. There's been a lot of comparisons between the two, and curiously enough, both caused by destabilized Afghanistan.
Helicopters in Vietnam away. That's not even a contest. This has been the most humiliating period of time I've ever seen. Yeah, we had a...
No, that's because you actually think staying in your entire presidency wasn't humiliating.
Great deal. We worked on it very hard. Mike Pompeo, a brilliant guy, and many others worked on it endlessly.
Did they work on it endlessly? Because it seems like it ended about page 4. And I gotta say, the whole document looks a little phoned in, kiddo. I mean, it looks like some perfunctory fuck it language in here. This is some. I mean, the deep state would be very disappointed just in the lack of doublespeak. Even it's just dumb on its face.
Meetings with the Taliban. Of course, you have to meet with the Taliban.
Of course, you got to meet with the Taliban, and you do it in secret, and you give them a document that you're not going to take any steps on, and you try to get your forces out by the election because you think that's one of the things that will help salvage your flailing campaign. And then you got to make them promises at the expense of the Afghan government.
They're the ones that you're negotiating with.
Are they? Because one would think you were negotiating with the Afghan government if you spent nearly $1 trillion arming and training them.
I spoke on numerous occasions to the head of the Taliban.
The head of the Taliban. Is it? I understood it was just their accountant.
And we had a very strong conversation.
Did you? Like, you both talk about like how bathing's overrated and shades of orange that are your favorite?
Told him up front, I said, look, before we start, let me just tell you right now that if anything bad happens to Americans or anybody else, or if you ever come over to our land, we will hit you with a force that no country has ever been hit with before.
Asshole, we've been there for 20 years. Yeah, you watch it, you kill another one of our people over here, we'll spend 40 years there letting you kill our people.
A force so great that You won't even believe it. And
yeah, that's right. If you kill any of our personnel as we're leaving, or you shoot anybody, or you're shooting at one of your own buddies and you end up hitting one of ours, we're going to nuke a city full of civilians, many of whom are in the process of filling out their special immigrant visa paperwork.
a village, and we know where it is, and I named it. Will be the first one.
Mr.
The first
President, I
bomb
want to
will be
interrupt.
dropped right there.
Mr. President, I want to interrupt. You're kind of losing the script.
You said this to who?
Yeah.
Who did you said
To
that to who?
To Mullah Baradar.
Mullah Baradar. Shit. Please. What say again? 1 second. Oh boy. Who?
Said
To
that to who?
To Mullah Baradar, who is probably the top person. Now, nobody
Probably.
really knows who the top person is, but
Well, I'm glad you started negotiating when you had no idea who the top person is. I am talking to the top guy. Does anybody know? I mean, honestly, bunch of hicks. Let's see. Go. Oh, hold on, I've got a unsecured link on this particular one. Let's see. I'll just go to the news on this one. Nope, nothing. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, I see. 1 second. That was my bad. I'm looking something up. Give me 1 second. Yeah. By the way, this is tired of winning. Anybody? Taliban's Abdul Ghani Baradar is undisputed victor of 20-year war. The Taliban leader freed from a Pakistani jail on the request of the U.S. less than 3 years ago. Wait, who was president of the United States just under 3 years ago? I don't remember. Has emerged as an undisputed victor in the 20-year war. While Hibatullah Ashundzada is the Taliban's overall leader, Baradar is its political chief and its most public face. He was said to be on his way from office in Doha to Kabul on Sunday evening. In a televised statement on the fall of Kabul, he said the Taliban's real test was only the beginning and that they had to serve the nation. Well, that's kind of true. Yes, it's the situation where the dog has finally caught the car it has been chasing. And nobody knows who runs it, though. And by the way, Trump got him out of prison.
I would say that's probably the top person, and it seems
Probably. I mean, it's just the United States of America signing a deal with people who harbor Al Qaeda. But I mean, it's like horseshoes and hand grenades over there.
to be
Literally.
That's the way it's rolling right now. But
That's the way it's rolling. You know what I mean? There's a groove to it.
a very strong conversation. I also had a good conversation with him.
Yeah, it was fun. We joked a little bit. I threatened to nuke cities, and then we just kind of slapped each other's thighs and had a friendly wrestle.
We talked for a while after that. That was
Thanks, Thomas, for becoming a member on YouTube.
the primary point I was making, and he understood it. And I asked him, do you
Through an interpreter.
understand? He said, yes, I do understand. And I wanted them to get a deal done with the Afghan government. Now, I never had a lot of confidence, frankly, in Ghani. I said that openly and plainly. I thought he was a total crook.
Well, that turned out to be the case. It doesn't necessarily help when you're trying to support a government when you're constantly going, oh, your fucking president's a crook, though. I'm going to go meet with the guys who harbored Al Qaeda and hid Osama bin Laden from us for years. Twice impeached, two-time popular vote loser with brain spurs says what?
I thought he got away with murder. He spent all his time whining and dining our senators. I mean, the senators were in his pocket. That was one of the problems that we had, but I never liked him, and I guess
Which senators would that be?
based on his escape with cash. I don't know. Maybe that's a true story. I would suspect it is. Well, you have
maybe. I mean, it's probably fake news.
to do is look at his lifestyle, study his houses where he lives. He got away with murder in many different ways.
Hey, you know who's getting away with murder? The Taliban.
But I had a very, very strong talk with the Taliban, which I consider to be much more important in this sense because they were the problem. And they've been there for a long time, and they're good fighters, and they fight hard. And after I said that, we had a pretty...
Yeah, it's kind of like this. Imagine Trump saying, I finally got to meet with MS-13. They're the toughest guys you've ever heard.
Good conversation. Now, I have to tell you that if you remember when they were coming to Washington to meet with me, they decided to kill an American soldier because they thought that was a good way to negotiate.
Yeah, they literally killed that person because you invited them. Art of the deal.
And I canceled the trip.
Yeah, that's a non-starter. Honest to God, I mean, I like having a packed birthday party as much as the next person. But if you kill one of the one of my family members, I honestly, you don't get cake at the baseline.
And we had a conditions-based agreement.
Yeah, but it wasn't enforced. So do you really?
And if you remember, it said May 1st, we want to get out because we have to get out. I've listened to people on your show and other shows say we should stay. They don't know. We were spending $42 billion a year. $42 billion. Think of it. $42 billion.
Oh, I'm thinking of it. I'm thinking of $42 billion. Oh, what I could do. Like and subscribe, give a thumbs up. Don't forget to super chat and give bits and stuff like that. I know asking for $42 billion is a lot, but I just have faith that if we grow this show big enough to where everyone on Earth can see it, and they all in 1 month give $4, we'll be well on our way. I would have a down payment on. I'm just too much.
I understand Russia spends $50 billion a year for their entire military. We were spending $42 billion, not 1%. They were saying 1%. That's a lot of nonsense. We're spending $42 billion a year on defending this for years and years. We've been there really now, not 20 years, but 21 and a half years. And we get nothing out of any.
21 and a half years. 9/11, 2000, and this year is 21. I don't know that. That's tough math.
Any of these things that we do, whether it's them or many other countries I could tell you about. I'm not going to insult anybody right now.
Why? Isn't that the only reason that he brings you on? Other than, of course, stare at you all dreamy. Sean isn't on camera right now because he's Jeffrey Tubening.
But to spend that kind of money and then to have people get on shows and say how inexpensive it was. And I have to tell you also that we lost no soldiers in the last year and a half because of me and because of the understanding that we had. We lost no, think of that.
Because you agreed to give them the country. I think that, pretty sure a bunch of cutthroat gangsters can put the fear of I guess the mullah in all the fighters. Don't shoot any U.S. service people or contractors or embassy professionals like right now, because if you just hang out for about a year, if you can not kill anybody till, I don't know, late August next year, 2021. I mean, we're all fighting COVID and staying home and just binge watching Amazon Prime. Anyways, that's apparently what the Taliban did during COVID. That if you can hang out and not kill anybody till late August next year, they're going to give us the country. Trump is going to give us the territory. We don't even have to fight anybody. We'll just walk across the fucking place. Everybody will drop their arms. They're going to basically recognize us. They're soft pedal recognizing us right now by pretending not to, while sending a message to the Afghan government that they're cutting them off at the knees. He'll shit talk them all next year. We just don't kill anybody. We get a whole country. I think that's a good deal.
That in Chicago and in New York and in other cities in the United States, many people die every weekend. We lost no soldiers.
Yeah, we haven't lost any right now either, exiting.
in Afghanistan. Because
you know, the chances of us losing a soldier in Afghanistan when we don't have any there anymore are pretty good. Those are C-3PO odds.
Because they knew I wasn't going to put up with it, and that's what happened.
Then why didn't we leave already? Why couldn't you have made this deal a year before, or the year before that, or the year before that?
So we had a very strong conversation.
Let me ask you this, sir. You know, it's interesting to listen to Joe Biden blame you. I inherited this deal, he kept saying, but he also inherited secure borders, and he also inherited energy independence, and he also inherited
570,000 dead people, Americans. He also inherited, according to this asshole, a bioweapon attack by China that this asshole let kill 500,000 Americans, and his response was to sell them pork, corn, and soybeans.
3 vaccines and therapeutics like Regeneron,
and a spike in the red communities because this guy's biggest fans also think those vaccines suck and are dangerous and don't work and the disease is fake. And Operation Warp Speed says to them that, I'm sorry, that was my mistake. Give me 1 second. I said the magic word. I said Operation Warp Speed. I apologize.
Captain's log.
There you go. That because of Operation Fartsteed,
Captain's log.
They don't trust it. They think it was rushed. He inherited that too. He inherited a bunch of red states that think that this guy's vaccines that they inherited and this guy's response to the disease were both dangerous and fake. Good times.
we now see what's been unfolding, and he didn't have inflation at the time. I want to go back. I want to be...
Well, we didn't have inflation because everyone was staying home and not doing anything. And there was, obviously we have inflation because of a bottleneck in supply. But I don't know if you've ever watched Fox Business, Sean. They have a bunch of shows on the air about finance. They talk about it a little bit. They talk about how in the long term deflation is going to be a concern, largely. Bond yield market, anything. Somebody there upstairs can talk to you about it.
Be very clear here, because Secretary of State Pompeo on this program said
former Secretary of State Pompeo
said exactly what you did, that there wouldn't be an exit strategy that didn't include the current conditions on the ground, and
so we were never going to leave. I mean, he basically just said we were never going to leave until we meet the conditions on the ground. We're not leaving, and the conditions on the ground involve the Taliban having control of the ground itself.
I have multiple sources, and you're confirming tonight that it sounds to me like you told the Taliban that if they violated any aspect of this agreement with
we're staying and we're nuking the place.
Territorial.
We're going to stay there and nuke ourselves.
Ambitions. We learned last week that 60% of the country was in their control. And you told them in no uncertain terms, it sounds to me like you would basically treat them like you took care of the caliphate in Syria, ISIS.
Well, we did. We got rid of the caliphate. Everyone said it was impossible, and I did it very quickly, and I let the generals make the decisions. The generals, the real generals, the ones that were over there doing the fighting, the ones that knew how to do it, because we have a lot.
Yeah, generals don't tend to be doing the fighting, but
a lot of generals that shouldn't be generals right now, frankly.
Yeah, like Mike Flynn.
And I'm watching them all the time, but we have some great ones.
Oh, really? Are they returning your coquettish glance?
We have great leaders in our military. We have the greatest military in the world, and we're giving it a very bad reputation by what's happening. Think of it. We took this horrible place. I mean, a place that just we shouldn't have been involved. It was a horrible decision going into the Middle East. And I know the Bush family will not be happy, but I believe it was the worst decision in the history of our country when we decided to go into the Middle East.
You guys know I get a little warmth right around this area when he starts attacking Republicans. It's kind of fun.
Turned out to be quicksand. We've destroyed the Middle East. Do you think it's better now than it was 20?
We've destroyed the Middle East? Huh?
21 years ago, it's much worse. It was a horrible decision, cost us trillions of dollars. And if you look at both sides, because I like to look at both sides.
Sure, absolutely.
Millions and millions of lives. And it's no different than it was. It's much worse because you have to
Millions and millions of lives. Good fucking Lord.
rebuild it. It's been blown to pieces. The worst decision ever made was
We blow it up and then we have to build it again. This is like, it's like a fucking Lego country. But this kid's annoying.
you could do a strike as retribution, and it could be a big strike as retribution for the World Trade Center, etc. But to get stuck in there was like quicksand. So we did a terrible thing. But think of what's happening now. I've heard.
If I may. Let's see. Afghanistan. The one thing that could have changed the war in Afghanistan, had Osama bin Laden been killed or captured in December 2001, justice would have been served in a way Americans like, fast, hard, and cheap. I feel seen. Let's see, and who wrote this? Oh, David Frum. Okay. Did you put that in perspective? Yet I strongly believe the U.S. stayed in Afghanistan because first Bush and then his successors got trapped in a pattern of responding to past failures by redoubling future efforts. In the fall of 2001, the U.S. mission in Afghanistan was clear, limited, and achievable: find and kill bin Laden. After bin Laden escaped, that mission escalated into something hazy and impossibly difficult: to rebuild Afghanistan society and remodel the Afghan state. Had U.S. forces succeeded against bin Laden in 2001, justice could have been... Well, they didn't want to. You know, remember Bush? You know, I don't really think about him that much. This is a good look on Trump's face, though. I think really that's, I mean, it's a solid look.
As many as 40,000 Americans, and the Taliban, good fighters. I will tell you, they're good fighters. We have to give them credit for that. They've been
Why don't you just give one of them a hand job right on the air?
fighting for 1,000 years. That's what they do, is they fight.
1,000 years. They were formed in 1990, what, 4?
The Taliban has circled the airport, and who knows if they're going to treat us right. You know, all of a sudden they'll say, well, frankly, if they were smart, they'd really, and they are smart, they should let the Americans out. But we've had situations where you have 2 or 3 or 4 hostages. We could have 40,000 Americans, not to mention others, like people that helped us in Afghanistan. So,
yeah, by the way, no plan to remove the translators and people who helped us. None.
We've never had a situation like this. We have 40,000 potential hostages, a minimum of
hostages.
11,000, but it could be as many as 40. No, they have no idea how many.
Well, they're doing 9,000. They're removing 9,000 people a day, between 5 and 9,000. So basically, all that part of it will be over by the weekend.
Nobody knows how many.
Nobody knows. Nobody even. I mean, maybe you could ask the guy who heads up the Taliban if anybody knows who he is. Nobody really knows, but it's probably more. Whatever the number is, there's probably 10,000 more.
Know anything?
It's Trumponomics.
When Joe Biden told the country that he trusted that the Afghan military was so far superior, and they were over 300,000 strong, and they had an air force, and we
Did he say he trusted them? Is that what he said, Sean?
wouldn't see what happened in Saigon, he couldn't have been more wrong. But let me go back to the words you used to the Taliban leader.
Right, yeah. Use the words.
Because we knew last week that 60% of the country had already been taken over by the Taliban.
Uh-huh.
And there was...
Because we started removing our people, and they were aware that we had undermined the government last year.
No sense of urgency. To me, under your plan...
No sense of urgency. Have you been watching the news the last 3 months when we've been talking about the special immigrant visa, folks?
And if they had taken over 5%, not 60...
That's a good point, Gorilla in the Mist. State Department does know precisely how many Americans are there, in terms of at least the people who are supposed to be there that we know are there.
Like they had last... 5% that was not in your agreement, what would have happened to them?
We would have hit them very hard. Again, the words are conditions, plural, conditions.
Conditions, I got a condition. Condition on the what is the word again?
Very hard. Again, the words are conditions, plural.
Conditions. It feels like I need like background music for that one. Hold on one second. Let's see. So we're just gonna go, and then yeah. Conditions on the ground. We've got conditions. 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 Conditions on the ground with all of these Taliban all around. How do we get to the airport? Got my ticket. Conditions. The word is conditions. Sorry. So, I apologize. Yeah, I have to stop that. Sorry.
Conditions based.
It's conditions based. Excuse me. It's pronounced conditions based.
Was an agreement where actually we wanted to get out by May 1st, and they violated the agreement, so we didn't. It's a great agreement from a lot of different standpoints.
Yeah, it's pretty. The font was nice.
And frankly, Biden didn't have to even go by that agreement. He could have done. Look what he's done to the border. We had the greatest border, southern border.
He could have blown it off. This is, oh my God, this is beautiful.
In the history of our country, we stopped drugs, we stopped human trafficking, we stopped people from coming in.
Really? Then, if you did that, then why was human trafficking up in 2019 and opioid deaths up? Oh, because fentanyl comes in via the ports and you were making a deal with China in the lead up to COVID. And yeah, okay.
Prisoners from coming in. Now you'll have, you have the worst people.
Sounding a bit like Dennis DeYoung there. Oh, thanks, Andrea. I'll take that as a huge compliment.
People in the world, they're emptying their jails into our country. This is like the southern border.
No, it's not. It's 6,000 miles away, and we've had our southern border for more than 20 years. Just saying. And we want to keep it.
But it's handled even worse. Nobody handled the southern border worse than him. We had the most secure border we've ever had. Now we have by far the worst border we've ever had. Well,
thanks to COVID.
Afghanistan is the exact same thing. To think of this.
Yeah.
We have a military. It's holding it. I got it reduced down to 2,500 soldiers, and they were doing a good job. It was fine. It was a smaller force. I took it down from close to 20 to 2,500, and we were fine. But we were
fine. We just stay there forever.
Have the military there, and we take the military out before we took our civilians out, and before.
Well, we didn't. We did that in the southern areas. The last people were the people in the embassy. It was just that they charged Kabul faster because last year you basically said, don't worry about the Afghan government. We'll take care of that stuff.
We took the interpreters and we want to try and help. But by the way, I'm America first, okay? The Americans come out first. But we're also going to help people that helped us. And we have to be very careful with the vetting because you have some.
Yeah, because it was awful. I mean, sure, they may have helped us for 10 years and raised children right in front of our soldiers' eyes, but that's really just how they get you.
Rough people in there, but we're going to help those.
Some rough people. Yeah.
People. But can you imagine?
By the way, shall we look at that footage again of the guys clinging to the C-13 and falling off of it? Who here thinks that Trump would want to allow any of the men in that crowd into the United States ever, even if they were vetted very strongly?
Imagine. Now, what we were going to do just very quickly is we were going to take the military out last.
I see. Yeah.
Okay, last.
Yeah, last. All right. So that was the last thing they were going to. So last. So we were going to pack up our embassy and everybody around there, and then leave the soldiers there as the city starts to fall because everybody's going to notice that all of our people are leaving the embassy and it's boarded up.
The people were coming out. They were going to come out.
Look at that. 900 people in the chat just on YouTube. I think that 20,000 algorithm break helped us out, kids. I think cresting over that was the tipping point.
But the agreement was violated, so I held things back because we weren't going to do anything, again, conditions-based. So
Well,
they were.
Yeah, so we stayed and we stayed and we stayed and we stayed, and the conditions to stay would always be there and part of the deal.
We'll be
fulfilling their
debating.
obligations and conditions. But here's
So the conditions were not made by the Afghan government, who wanted us to stay forever, and the Taliban, who wanted us to leave. If neither of them met those conditions, we would never go. The fuck are you talking about?
just to finish. The people
Yeah, just wrap it up.
come out first. Then I was
you,
going to
Obama.
take all of the military equipment. We have billions and billions of dollars worth of new Black Hawk helicopters, brand new,
Yeah, we're not leaving that stuff.
that Russia now will be examining and
Examining, yeah, because they've never seen one before. You do realize you gave them all that shit in Syria already, right?
so will China and so will everybody else to figure it because it's
They're
the
gonna reverse engineer Blue Thunder.
greatest in the world. We have brand new army tanks and all sorts of equipment, missiles. We have everything. I was going to take it out because I knew they weren't going to fight.
So you were gonna undermine the entire military of the Afghan government by removing all the shit we gave them, which was, by the way, not the top of the line stuff, and we don't have that kind of. We don't have 2,500 troops in there. Fucking, we're not keeping that shit there. That stuff left. But you were gonna just take all that stuff away from them. What, last year? Over the course of the year, and then leave, and then go. Yeah, the Taliban won't dare move into Kabul. Good fucking
Just
Lord.
one thing, and I have to say, and this is different from everyone else.
Oh boy, I doubt it.
I said, why are they fighting? Why are these Afghan soldiers fighting against the Taliban? And I was told some very bad information by a lot of different people. The fact is, they're among the highest paid soldiers in the world. They were doing it for a paycheck because once we left, they stopped fighting. So all of the people that talk about the bravery and everything, I say everybody's brave. But
Yeah, everybody. Basically, I mean, bravery is something that just kind of falls out of your pants.
the fact is, our country was paying the Afghan soldiers a fortune. So we were sort of bribing them to fight.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, all the more reason why. Why the fuck are we staying there? You what now? Why? How is this supposed to convince me that Biden is wrong to get us the fuck out? Seriously, in this entire conversation, where is the like? Ah, well, that's yeah, you got me there.
And that's not.
I mean, we should have stayed. All we had to do was keep bribing the government and the soldiers to not let the Taliban take the place over, and then let the agreement where the Taliban wouldn't kill our service people to lapse, which I guess was 4 days ago.
what it's all about.
It is. The hokey pokey, that's what he's talking about. But
a great thing
putting your right foot in is what it's all about.
that we're getting out, but nobody has ever handled a withdrawal worse than Joe Biden.
Well, I would argue that by not handling the withdrawal at all, his predecessors were worse. All deference to Obama, who I appreciate and enjoy. Jimmer, dude always one that makes me join the Motang clan. Is that like the Masons? Yeah, it's a little more open. It's not quite a secret society. We're a society with secrets.
This is the greatest embarrassment, I believe, in the history of our country.
Well, I mean, ignoring a pandemic and as 500,000 Americans die, where's that chart?
Mr. President, we don't know how many Americans are trapped behind enemy lines.
Enemy lines. Listen to this asshole.
We know that the Taliban have set up
Enemy lines. So he was negotiating with the enemy. We're clear on that, Sean. Thank you, Julie. I hate this orange dumpster fire. That's it. That's the message. Love you, Hal. Thank you, Julie. By the way, for the record, can we all just enjoy for a moment that he looks like shit? This is not a happy man. Both of them. And it's interesting because, and I feel a little sad for Trump because, Hannity put on his best Trump orange tonight. And I don't know if Trump was like, I'm done with the orange thing. That's so yesterday. And yeah.
for perimeter around the airport.
Behind enemy lines.
I guess the question is, how do we get our people home now?
Yeah, ask Trump. Give us a breakdown, buddy. Show us, throw the agreement up again. Like, just bring up the thing that this little word in here is the United States and its allies coalition will withdraw all their forces from 5 military bases. There has to be is there a subcategory under this part? Is there a section, paragraph A, subsection B, footnote that says how? All right.
What would you advise? What would you do if you were put into this situation right now? And
what would you do? First of all, I'd order a shit ton of Fish Delight.
Dropped in.
I'd do a blazing rail of Adderall and Ritalin, and I would get out in front of there and tell me that I want to get out, but the general's telling me it's not possible.
And you were to take over. What is the answer? Because we don't know where they are. Senator Tom Cotton literally said that people are being told to go to a website. Don't call anymore. Go to a website, he said.
Well, yeah, because they're signing up for something, and they have that many operators, but the military and the embassy there have internet capabilities, and everyone if you have a phone to make a call, you have a phone to use the internet. This is not someone being extracted and trying to get a message. This isn't fucking Jumpin' Jack Flash, you asshole.
I'm like, please tell me we have a better plan than that.
Well, no, that's a better Just for the record, can we agree that signing up for something on a website is a better organizational tool when dealing with a lot of people than fucking phone calls?
Joe's been on vacation. I just heard that apparently he landed back at the White House. Nice of him to return.
Well, I'm sorry. So, Trump, you've lost him. He's asleep now. Trump's asleep. You've bored him. Great job, Sean. Great job. You had to ask him how he would solve it. Now he's got to close his eyes, meditate for a moment. Lulu girl. He's got to close his eyes and meditate for a moment and try to come up with a way to deflect this to, we had the best economy.
And he only returned because he was getting terrible press, okay?
Well, no, he returned because it fell faster than the military told him it would, and so he went back to deal with it. Adult shit. Because he took phone calls with Merkel and I think UK Prime Minister and some of the people from the EU. Didn't do it on camera, though, so pictures it didn't happen, right?
He didn't return for any other reason. And I don't even believe he's calling the shots. Look, what you need more than anything is a president.
Well, I would say for the record, you can believe that, but a shot is being called. A shot you could have called, but didn't. So you were in charge. This is what we're to believe. You were in charge. You fully ran things. You knew how everything worked. You knew things better. You knew ISIS better than the generals. You knew how to solve all these problems. And you just fucking punted. Every year.
And that's respected. You need a president.
Oh, by the way, next year, the respect level after we're out of here and out of Guantanamo and everybody's like, we were all fucking pitching a fit. But he got a shit ton of people out of there as the place was falling, and he had the guts to shut it down when this asshole let it drag on through his presidency. It was one thing when Obama was midway through his dealing with the recession, which knocked us on our ass as a country, and in the middle of that, he's going to try and get us out of Afghanistan at the same time while the generals are giving him the same bullshit story. By the time we got around to the Trump administration, everybody kind of knew it was a bullshit story. When Biden got in office, he was like, it's bullshit, isn't it? And they went, yeah, it's bullshit. And he was like, well, then fuck it, we're out. No. Leadership. Jesus.
President that got rid of ISIS. We got 100% got rid of ISIS.
ISIS is gone? 100%? 100%. Let's check on that. Let me look that up. ISIS. Let's see. Here's the latest. Show everyone can have asked. Let's see. Canine super dogs. U.S. troops leaving Afghanistan. That's what the future looks like. New Zealand. See the newest stuff on there. ISIS link. Let's see. 100%. 100%. 100%. This is, when is this? This is June 2021. Military victories combined with new alliances and shifts in strategy reinforce militants' position across much of the continent. ISIS-linked groups open new front across sub-Saharan Africa. But tell me again why we need to stay in Afghanistan to solve this. Oh, are we supposed to invade sub-Saharan Africa now? I mean, ISIS is there. War on terror, right? Islamic State's affiliates in Africa are set for major expansion after a series of significant victories. New alliances and shifts in strategy reinforce their position across much of the continent. Following recent gains in Nigeria, am I the only person who's been bringing up where they've been and making a parallel between this and why we're not stationed in Nigeria? We work with the UN forces and we work with the Nigerian forces against this stuff, but we're not. Okay. The Sahel and Mozambique and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Honest to God. Do I keep? All right. ISIS propaganda published by the group's leadership in its heartland in the Middle East. It's heartland in the Middle East. Jesus Christ. Do they have a Cracker Barrel? Heartland in the Middle East. That's adorable. It's kind of like an ISIS version of Dollywood. Is increasingly stressing sub-Saharan Africa as a new front, which may compensate the group for significant setbacks elsewhere. Yeah, significant setbacks like being 100% gone. Detailed accounts of recent internal debates in Nigeria where Islamic State West African ISWAP, I would work on that, guys, recently routed Boko Haram, ouch, that's got a sting, suggested a new emphasis by ISIS in... Really, I mean, talk about torn between two lovers. ISIS just fought off Boko Haram. Though strategies differ according to local conditions, the new bid by the group to create zones of jihadi governance could pose a major challenge to weak, corrupt, and inefficient national authorities. Analysts fear. That seems good. Weak, corrupt, and inefficient national authorities. I think it's a perfect place for us to roll in and set up shop. Right, Trump? I mean, if we're going to 100%, for an organization like ISIS... former organization, excuse me, they're 100% gone, okay? Sub-Saharan Africa is where you can find, you can have a lot of impact with minimal investment of resources. This is one of the few places in the world where ISIS actually controls territory of many thousands of square kilometers. It's a frontier for them, said Vincent Fauché, I'm going to go with that, an expert on Islamic extremism in Nigeria with the French National Center for Scientific Research. Yeah, Fauché, I'm going to go. ISWAP, seriously, guys, stormed the Sambisa Forest, a swath of strategically important dense forest in Nigeria's northeast last month, killing Boko Haram's veteran leader, Abu Bakr Shekau, and inheriting many of his followers. That's adorable. Fight with us, or we will burn you alive. Anybody got a coin I can flip? Inherited. Jesus Christ. As well as his treasury and weapons. His treasury? What the fuck is this? Treasure Island? Is it like... does he have a peg leg in this story? Since the group has sought to integrate former Boko Haram commanders and to convince them not to see any Muslim living outside zones they control as enemy and apostate, as Shekau believed, the leader of ISWAP, Abu Musab al-Barnawi, has argued that holding a passport and other government identity documents should now be permitted. Well, yeah, it's hard to travel to another country, learn how to fly a plane, but not how to land it if you don't have a passport. Audio tapes of speeches by al-Barnawi, seen as more educated and relatively moderate compared to the other ISWAP commanders, reveal he has also taken unexpected steps to improve the treatment of children in local communities. Well, where are you going to get soldiers from if you kill all the children? Did we learn nothing from Boko Haram? In recent weeks, ISWAP has opened up areas of grazing to herders, released detainees from its prisons, this is the hearts and minds part of things, started levying religious taxes on the wealthy in areas it controls, and sought to limit raids for war booty to be distributed among fighters in place of pay. By the way, that's not money. That's money, goods, and women folk. So, but 100%. They're gone, dude. They're gone 100%. I got 100%. Gone 100%.
We did a job. Al-Baghdadi. I won't even mention all of the things that we did. No,
Why not? Why? Because you can't? Because you don't remember? Because you don't know? Because that's it?
nobody's ever done what we've done. We were
Well, I mean, this dude right here and his former boss killed Osama bin Laden in a raid that didn't lose any U.S. soldiers. I'm just...
respected all over the world. China was paying us billions and billions of dollars of tariffs.
Yeah, it was kind of like a bioweapon version of three-card Monty.
Companies were moving back into our country, and China respected us. And frankly, they respected me.
They did? They did. Did they now? Was the first sign of that respect that they were doing a very professional job dealing with COVID, as you said?
But you look, Russia, I had the pipeline stopped, totally stopped.
No, you didn't. You had it temporarily stopped.
Biden comes in, he approves that pipeline.
Right, because now we don't have to sink ships to stop Russia's oil trade if we have to. We just blow up a single pipeline. It's pretty sweet. And then they have to start the shipping up again, and it'll cost them money and time, and it's way more complicated.
But he disapproves the Keystone XL pipeline.
That's Canadian shale oil running over our aquifers.
You need
native land. So fuck you.
Need a president that's respected. I've never realized how important, frankly, and it's a horrible thing to say, how important a president, the head of this country, is. I thought it would maybe run through bureaucracy. It doesn't. You need somebody up there that they're going to respect.
Well, I think many people respect a decisive leader who, in spite of all the bad press that they might get, goes ahead and does what's right anyways and gets us the fuck out of Afghanistan instead of punting for 4 years straight and saying it's somebody else's problem. For all the blame game bullshit they're talking about, it seems pretty easy from this sap.
So when they say, oh, he talked to the Taliban, you remember they were criticizing me.
Yes, we were.
They criticized me when I talked to Kim Jong-un.
Yes, that was also a mistake.
Well, President Biden told me it's the single biggest problem we have.
No, President Obama told you that.
I said, have you ever...
But thanks for saying President Biden. That's fine.
Called him. Have you ever talked to him? No, I haven't.
Right, because it would give them respect they don't deserve to get a call from the President of the United States.
He did try, but it was not receptive on the other side.
He did not try to call. There's no situation where Obama tried to call Kim Jong-un and they didn't pick up.
Side, but it was receptive with me.
Yeah, he said leave a message, and then he played the tape back.
Hey, now we were supposed to have a war, and probably a very big nuclear war. I get along with him great, and
yeah, it's great. All they got during your time in office was an increase in their nuclear program and more ballistic missiles that could travel all the way across the ocean, the ocean to the west coast of America. I mean, you give a little, you take a little.
I got along with him great. He doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are cut from the same cloth. It's big cloth, big drapey cloth, kind of Marlon Brando style moo cloth.
Doesn't like Biden much, I'll tell you that.
Good. I would prefer that a man who starves his own people and runs basically a national gulag doesn't like my president.
But I got along with him great. And we had...
Yeah, of course you did. Because if you could do that to the United States, you would.
No problems. You remember that. We were virtually, remember the big button versus the little button and the whole thing?
Yeah, it was adorable. It was great. It was excellent. I loved that episode. It was hilarious. It's like we're talking about Family Guy episodes, not international dealings with the most serious country in the world and the most inserious leader in the world.
Let me just, we get along great. We had a...
It's great. I'm glad you still do. Did you golf recently? Have you both been to Disney World?
Very good relationship. We met. We got no credit for that one.
Well, no, you got a lot of criticism for it because it's fucked up.
No problem. By the way, South Korea, I got them to pay billions of dollars. Billions.
Yeah, by the way, that's one of the reasons why Kim Jong-un likes you. What it cost to get Kim Jong-un's respect was to fuck South Korea.
Protecting South Korea They're very wealthy. They build the ships. They build the televisions. They do everything.
No, they don't. They have companies that do.
They're very rich. They were paying us nothing.
Yeah, but it was because we were sharing that stationing there. It wasn't protection racket. Both of us had an interest. Jesus.
I got them to pay billions and billions of dollars because we're protecting them.
All money that we lost in your fucked up handling of COVID.
From North Korea. And I had a very good relationship with President Moon and all of the people in South Korea. In fact,
because if they didn't kiss your ass, it would cost them even more money and be even more dangerous and make it more possible for the North to harm all of their citizens.
They liked me and I liked them. But I said, why are we doing this for nothing? Japan.
We're not doing it for nothing. It's a strategic interest.
And the same thing. We're protecting the world. We can't do this. It's not.
So get out of Afghanistan is what you're saying.
We're not supposed to be doing this. If you look at Russia, if you look at China, how many countries are they fighting for? One. You ask them. They're fighting for Russia. They're fighting for China. They're not.
Yeah, but the strategic interest of them. They got troops in Syria. The Russians have troops in Syria, in southern Afghanistan. They got troops in Pakistan. They have a bunch of people in South America.
Not fighting for.
What the fuck are you talking about? Did you not read any briefs while you were in there?
For 93.
Of course he didn't.
3 different countries all over the world. Most of them, nobody ever heard of them.
Well, you haven't. You are not the dum-dum line. Or maybe you are at this point.
So we had a very, very strong conversation with the mullah. And frankly,
The mullah. You talked right to a pile of money. I'm looking at a bunch of mullah. But the mullah, fucking hell. The mullah. I love talking to money. Money.
It absolutely, they would
interesting.
not have done what they've done right now. This is the greatest embarrassment and beyond embarrassment.
Yeah, it's beyond an embarrassment. It's a pantsing. Sure. I mean, what would be less embarrassing? We just stay.
This is something that it will affect our relationships for years to come and decades to come.
Yeah, but we'll have a lot more money to spend fixing those relationships to the tune of, what was it you said, $48 billion a year?
I will say, when China watches this, they're so happy and they're laughing at us.
Good. Tell them I said good luck in Afghanistan. And as soon as they start digging up lithium and building roads, because they think it's all going to be fine, and the people that they're communicating with start communicating with the Uyghurs, and Xinjiang, it'll all work out. I'm sure there won't be any kind of a conduit between the Uyghurs, who don't forget what the Chinese government has done to them, and the entire fucking Taliban, who thinks that they can slowly but surely bleed China dry over time. Because that's, I mean, if you're looking at it from the Taliban's point of view, that, if that's where you get your weapons from, is when a country gets bogged down in there. They're a tick looking for the next dog.
They're laughing. I extracted billions and billions of dollars out of China. Never happened. We never got 10 cents from China.
Oh, the 10 cents from whatever. Obviously. Well, Walmart did.
Billions and billions. They were so happy to see a rigged election. They might have helped it along, actually. But they...
Oh, slip that in on you, Sean. You couldn't edit that. That was live. Oh, well. Good luck with the Dominion. You guys almost dodged it. Good luck with the Dominion lawsuit. That's going to sneak up on you.
They were so happy. But, Sean, I'll tell you what, this is the greatest embarrassment that I've ever seen. This is, and you know it better than you do, an incredible job in covering it, and I appreciate it. The whole country appreciates it.
Yeah, we all do. We all I wake up in the morning going, thank God for Sean Hannity.
This is the greatest embarrassment in the history of our country.
Dude, you have to, I know you want that to be the quote. You got to tighten that shit up. You really have. You're not going to be able to make a real soundbite out of it unless you can say it all in one go.
There's never been, and let me tell you, we haven't stopped. This is not ending. Again, we have all of those thousands of Americans over there and others, and you're saying, how are they going to get? They have a Taliban ring around the airport. They said nobody else. Now, they're saying we'll negotiate, but do you really think, their history is that they're very brutal.
I see. Guy who struck a deal with them last year, says what now?
And they don't like to negotiate. That's it.
No, they don't. Is that that was your experience? I mean, honestly, you just gotten the guy out of a Pakistani jail, so he might have been a little anxious, if you know what I'm saying.
History, and Biden put us in this position. He should have gotten the civilians out first. Then he should have
well, then they would have known we were leaving.
Taken the military equipment. We have billions of dollars of brand new, beautiful equipment. Take the equipment out, and then take the soldiers out. And frankly, I said, take the soldiers out, but before you leave, blow up all the forts.
The forts. Oh, we have forts now. I always thought we had bases, but apparently we've been playing fort in Afghanistan this whole fucking time. The forts. Really?
Because we built these forts that are being now used by the enemy. It's not.
Oh my God, it's terrible when yeah, I mean, they're my blankets, they're my pillows. If you have to ask permission if you want to play fort with me.
Even believable.
You know, it's interesting.
By the way, hold on one second. U.S. Let's see. Let's see if this there. I mean, I know nobody actually pays attention to this asshole, but I mean, I think it's kind of worthwhile that we. Oops, let me grab this. We don't give a crap about the little shit. They don't, especially and a lot of the like the airplanes and stuff we gave to the Afghan military. If they don't know how to service them, they're just going to fall apart. They'll try and sell them. We'll blow them up as they're leaving the country. It's silly. But as the final American and NATO troops leave Afghanistan after a 2-decade war, they are leaving behind tons of military equipment to be destroyed in scrapyards. The U.S. military is breaking up the Bagram Air Base, and anything that is not taken home or given to the Afghan military is being dismantled. According to a statement from the U.S. military, about 1,300 pieces of equipment have been destroyed so far. One official told the Associated Press that there will be more destroyed before the final deadline of departure on September 11th. The process is done as a security measure to ensure the equipment does not fall into the hands of militants. However, scrap sellers across Afghanistan see this as a waste. What they are doing is a betrayal of Afghans. They should leave, Bubba Mir told Associated Press. Like they have destroyed this vehicle, they have destroyed us. Okay. He's very angry. I understand that. Guess what, Baba? You're cool, man. We're gone. The Afghans feel abandoned to a legacy they blame, at least in part of the Americans, a deeply corrupt U.S.-backed government, growing instability that could burst into a brutal new phase of a civil war. Oh, were we ever so young. The bitterness of the scrapyard owners is only a small part of that. Really? They're that pissed? They're getting... Oh, okay. And it's based somewhat on self-interest. They feel they could have profited more from selling intact equipment. Tough shit, guys. You're a scrap dealer, not an arms dealer, and that matters. It's been a common theme for the past 2 traumatic and destructive decades in the actions that the U.S. touted as necessary but beneficial only disillusioned Afghans who felt the repercussions. At Bagram, northwest of the capital of Kabul and other bases, U.S. forces are taking stock of equipment to be returned to America. Tens of thousands of metal containers about 20 feet long are being shipped out in C-17 cargo planes or by road through Pakistan and Central Asia. As of last week, 60 I know what 60 means. 60 C-17s packed with equipment already had left Afghanistan. This is in May. Can we stop pretending this shit hasn't been happening? And you don't think the Taliban knew that this shit was going? They're either giving the shit to the guys who are all largely going, I don't know how to fly a plane. I don't need that. They're scrapping it, boxing it the fuck up. Officials are being secretive about what stays and what goes. Most of what is being shipped home is sensitive equipment never intended to be left behind. according to the U.S. and Western officials who spoke on condition of anonymity in order to talk freely about departing troops. Other equipment, including helicopters, military vehicles, weapons, and ammunition, will be handed over to Afghan's national defense and security forces. Some bases will be given to them as well. One of the most recent handed over was the new Antonik base on Helmand province, where the Taliban are said to control roughly 80% of the rural area, and they can have it. Destined for the scrap heap are equipment vehicles that can neither be repaired nor transferred to Afghanistan security forces because of poor condition. The practice is not new. The same was done in 2014 when thousands of troops withdrew as the U.S. and NATO handed Afghanistan security over to the Afghans. More than 387 million pounds of scrap from destroyed equipment and vehicles was sold to Afghans for about $46.5 million. A spokeswoman for the military's Defense Logistics Agency in Virginia said at the time. Last month, around the time President Joe Biden announced that America was ending its forever war, Mir paid nearly $40,000 for a container packed with 70 tons of trashed equipment. He'll make money, he told the Associated Press, but it'll be a fraction of what he could have made if they'd been left intact, even if they weren't in working condition. Yeah, asshole, that's the problem. We don't want them to have that stuff. The vehicle parts would have been sold to the legions of auto repair shops across Afghanistan. He said, that can't happen now. They've been reduced to mangled pieces of metal that Mir sells for a few thousand Afghanis. Sadat, another junk dealer in Bagram, who gave only one name, says other scrapyards around the country are crammed with ruined U.S. equipment. They left us nothing. They don't trust us. They have destroyed our country. They are giving us only destruction. They sound lovely. But yeah, sorry, what was it again? Was that one of the conditions?
Interesting, because I'm watching both Russia and China race in, and they want to recognize the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan.
Well, yeah, they respect strength.
Almost immediately, you know.
Yeah, it's almost as if they don't give a fuck about human rights or women's rights or any of that stuff, and just want to like move on the corpse like in deference to a maggot.
It's funny. I mentioned to you that I had numerous sources that said that apparently a lot of people are on your phone calls. I know everyone wanted to release the Ukraine call. They said what we really need to do is release the calls between President Trump and the head of the Taliban, and maybe while we're at it, we can release some of the calls with President Trump and President Xi, because America might be shocked to hear
the story that Trump told you about what he said, which isn't true.
How strong you were and forceful you were.
And yet they didn't take it seriously at all. You used a lot of bluster and bullshit, and still they didn't seem to give a fuck. That's fascinating. A clear sign of respect.
In a lot of these conversations, which leads me to...
Because I noticed they were, like the Russians, for example, were hacking our companies and our government facilities last year, but you didn't address it, really.
Question about what's going on with China and Russia. They're both arming Iran, putting that aside. But China in particular has threatened our military bases, Japan's military bases. They lectured our country in front of our Secretary of State, not Mike Pompeo, Blinken, in Anchorage about human rights, of all things, after COVID.
Right. And we take it as inserious as it sounds.
And then the communist...
So Blinken is supposed to... Anything Blinken says is bullshit. Anything China says is the real deal. Thanks, Sean.
Chinese are saying we need to beg for permission to land in Taiwan, and their propaganda newspaper is suggesting that America won't lift a finger to help our ally Taiwan if, in fact, they have reunification, which we both means they want to take over Taiwan. And I'm not sure. I disagree with that assessment. I don't believe Joe Biden would lift a finger to help Taiwan. Your thought?
Well, it is not the first time, for the record, though, that Sean Hannity has agreed with Chinese propaganda. So I guess it goes on that checklist.
What's on the new aggressive nature of China?
Well, I had a great relationship with President Xi.
Oh, yeah. You guys, like, it was like this, and this is she. It's like you guys were like this. Okay.
A really great relationship. We got
really great. Really great. It was great. It was really great, guys. It was so good. Like we called all the time.
Great until COVID.
Until COVID. And then I was like, wait a second. I'm only going to sell you all of our beef, corn, pork, and soybeans while Americans are in food lines. That's it. That's it. I'm drawing a line.
Even though I taxed the hell out of them through the tariffs, they weren't happy.
And it still made money. It's funny. It's weird. It's almost as if they can manipulate their currency in any way they want because the citizenry has no say in it.
But I had a very good relationship.
It's just funny that way. It doesn't even matter.
And we met at Mar-a-Lago, and I told.
Did you? Did across the buffet where you both reached for a shrimp in the cocktail and your fingers touched?
Told him very strongly, do not do anything having to do with Taiwan. Just don't do it.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, we'll see.
And I said it much stronger than that. I'm not going to.
Did you? Did you say dirty words?
To say exactly how, but it was said very strongly. This wasn't a call. This was sitting in a sofa at Mar-a-Lago.
So you're in a sofa. This is where strength and diplomacy meet, on a sofa.
A meeting that was supposed.
This was the sofa summit. For those of you who don't know.
To last 15 minutes before we went on to various other things within, with our different people.
Well, yeah, it obviously took him longer to plant bugs all over Mar-a-Lago, and he was supposed to keep you distracted on the sofa. Did he ever take his hand off your knee? Inquiring minds want to know.
But it lasted for hours. We got along great.
Well, yeah, somebody had to run out and get a Phillips screwdriver because they were trying to install this one thing, and they're like, why did I only bring flatheads? And somebody's like, oh, okay. Wong, go down to the store and get us need a Phillips screwdriver. Yeah, and some more of that film you kind of can't see through.
The first half hour I said, do not do anything having to do with Taiwan. I know you want to. Do not do it. Anyway, then
Yeah, very strong language, especially when you're on a sofa. You know what I mean? That's really a position of strength.
Election gets rigged, and we end up with a different president. And what happens? There are bombers now, last week, 28 bombers flying over Taiwan.
Yeah, they test a new president every time.
And this happened a week after the election. They were, all of a sudden, I think bad things are going to happen with respect to Taiwan because they don't respect our leadership and they no longer respect our country.
And they have the former president as a mouthpiece for Chinese propaganda along with Sean Hannity. So what more could they want? I mean, really, it's an open-door policy.
That's a really bad thing. China does not respect us any longer. And they had more respect for us just 7 months ago.
Yeah, when you sold them all of our beef.
Than they ever had for this country.
7 months ago. Wait, what?
Just 7 months ago. No longer respect our country. And that's a really bad thing. China does not respect us any longer. And they had more respect for us just 7 months ago.
Oh, because Biden got sworn in, and they were like, "Oh, okay, we thought they were going to go our route and get a ruler for life dictator kind of situation, and they fucking threw that off, didn't they? Look at that, and elected Biden, and he actually—that's funny. Like we didn't actually think they were going to pull that off. People attacked the Capitol and still didn't stop him. Dude was sworn in, he's president. That's amazing.
Than they ever had for this country.
Let me ask you about. The border was one of your big issues, sir.
Yeah. Why did the wall stop working as soon as you left? Why is it so poorly made? Why is it such a giant piece of shit? It was supposed to fix everything. Like, we didn't need drones or any of that stuff. You just put up the wall and you're done.
You had put in place the
Yes, it's an open backdoor policy.
Mexico policy. You built over 500 miles of border wall.
Well, you replaced a fence. Contracts that were already in place. That's how I got around that. I mean, they didn't claim any new territory.
You ended catch and release.
No, he didn't.
Okay, well, now the stay in Mexico policy is gone. The wall construction has ended, and it's no longer catch and release.
Yeah, but how come the parts of the wall that are already built don't fucking work? That's the part I have. Like, I understand they're running around the side of it. I have yet to see any footage. All the footage I'm seeing is people come through a gate. That gets played a lot. And then dudes fucking coming over it. People dropping babies over it in the middle of the night. Or really skinny fuckers just coming right in. Through the slat fence. Is there a bunch of, we're just going around. We just walked to the end of it and walked around.
Release, it's process and...
Oh, hold on. Maybe I have to look this up. There you go. Let's see. Immigrants, gaps in wall. That's Fox News. Immigrants storm through. Here we go. This is on Fox News, though. Biden halting border wall construction causing taxpayers thousands of tons of steel equipment.
Millions in taxpayer dollars that was going to build the wall.
Go away. Smugglers send groups of silence through gaps to overwhelm the agents. When agents leave to intercept the opportunity, the other group scampers across. It's a lot of scampering. It's insane, said an agent attending to a group of 13 Brazilian migrants apprehended Tuesday near the 100-foot gap in the fence in Ota Mesa, California. The project is three-quarters done. At least they could have allowed to tie together the primary fence. Otherwise, we're catching these people in the worst possible place. It's just sucking our manpower. That's the gap he's talking about. No. Now, these are the, let's see. Halted border wall construction offering gaps for migrants. This is the New York Post. This is, obviously hordes of illegal immigrants. Migrants look through the border wall after crossing the Rio Bravo River in El Paso. That looks safe for women and children. Let's see. Homeland Security Agent, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin were due to present the Commander-in-Chief with a plan on how to proceed on former President Donald Trump's border wall construction on March 21st, according to Biden's own presidential proclamation. The edict, signed on Inauguration Day, instituted a 2-month hold on military construction on the previous president's wall while Mayorkas and Austin reviewed the project. So that moratorium is over. Biden administration has prompted a flood of Central America. Okay, this is the border wall. Central Americans, refugees. These would be people climbing the wall. I noticed how the hands of asylum-seeking migrant children from Central America are seen holding the border wall as they wait to be transported to a processing center by the U.S. Border Patrol agents. So they climb up as far as they can, and then somebody has to come and take them down. So this, I would consider this. Would you consider this a design problem or a launch problem? Let's see. Mayorkas considering filling gaps in the border wall. Gap in U.S. border wall, a magnet for migrants. That's a Fox News clip. No, the surge in COVID cases across the United States is not due to migrants or immigrants. This is the Gap argument. Here's a bunch of people walking through. Look at that. It's beautiful. It's like a Christian postcard. Look at this. And the Lord shined down and parted, and Moses opened up. He lifted his stick. And a great parting happened in the wall. And they were, let my Cameron go. So the, let's see. How about, let's see. Immigrant gaps in the wall. That's what I looked up here. Immigrants, let's see. Immigrants climb wall. There's something along those lines. Yeah, a lot more pictures of those. That's a weird take, NPR. Trump's border wall has been causing injuries as people climb over them. No, the climbing causes them. I appreciate where you're going, and NPR, you're very sweet, but that's fucking ridiculous. This is like burglar falls in through skylight, homeowner held on manslaughter charges. The Trump administration putting up hundreds of miles of 18 to 30 foot bollard walls on the U.S. It's called a slat fence, okay? Many migrants are simply climbing over them, suffering serious injuries as a result. People climbing over, there you go. People are climbing over Trump's $15 billion border wall with these $5 ladders. Yeah, I'm not, why am I not seeing let's see. Why am I not seeing Sean Hannity cover this? People are sawing through and climbing over Trump's border wall. Now contractors are being asked for ideas to make it less vulnerable. Vulnerable, that's a good word. Man climbs over Trump's border wall. This is on YouTube. Hello. Watch this man climb over the virtually impenetrable. Virtually. Whee! Run to the... Okay. Yeah, that's good. I like the background music on the Now This. A section of border wall in South Texas costs $27 million a mile. It's being foiled by $5 ladders. There's the ladder. I don't know why Sean Hannity is not covering this. I honestly don't know. But the border was under such great control.
Release in the middle of a pandemic. You've seen the cages that are overcrowded with all of these illegal immigrants.
You've seen, or you saw, but not you've seen. All right. You've seen. Have you been hanging around with Mike Lindell?
High rate of COVID positivity. There's no vaccine mandates. Vaccine.
Yeah. Why are we not mandating that people crossing the border illegally in the middle of the night first show proof of vaccination? Huh?
Passports, mask mandates for illegal immigrants that many states are putting and burdening American people with.
Oh, they're burdening them. I see. So let me understand this. There's a flood of migrants crossing the border, all with COVID, and probably worse than Delta, Lambda, Zeta, everything. There's millions of them coming across the border, and the Biden administration is not testing and sending them everywhere. This is according to Sean Hannity here. And in the course of they're sending them everywhere, every state, and they're not even telling the states that they're there, and they're bringing all kinds of COVID in. But wearing masks is a violation of Americans' freedoms.
And those people are then being dispersed all over the country.
The Americans who are being forced to wear masks, or?
Wow.
Okay, yeah, I felt the same way when I tried to understand that sentence, Sean. I mean, we all have moments when we're on the air where we're like, fuck, did I say that? It's going to happen to just about anybody. Happens to you a lot more than it happens to me, but hey, who's counting?
Being dispersed all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. A big change that 7 months can make, and now it's going to be millions of people. What was your...
Why is that? Now it's going to be millions of people? Oh, right, because the wall was shit to begin with, and it was never going to work. And instead of policing the gaps or the areas that were open beyond that, apparently the CBP is incapable of doing their job without dear leader.
Reaction. What is your reaction?
Yeah, what is your reaction? Tell us your reaction. Let me guess, we had the best border wall, we had the best border ever?
I've never seen anything like what was...
Well, apparently everything is new. Is this a new form of Alzheimer's I'm not familiar with? This is like memento level.
Happening and what is happening now at our southern border. All he had to do is nothing.
Well, they did. They stopped building. They put a moratorium on that. They didn't do anything.
We had the greatest remain in Mexico. People weren't even allowed into our country.
Well, yeah, it's not about the people who are allowed in.
And we won that in the courts. It was very tough. The wall was almost completed. It could have been built in another month. They delayed me 2.5 years when Congress did.
Yeah, 1 month of work, and what was the final thing? It wasn't just a section of wall. Were you going to put spikes on it, electrify the fucking thing?
Democrats in Congress sued me. We never had a border anywhere like it. And then almost immediately they ended these policies. Catch and release. You catch them and release them into our country.
Well, that's because that's a ridiculous name. It's process and release. So some people get processed, they're immediately expelled. They don't even get a hearing. And then other people are going to get a hearing because they have sponsorship, family in the country, or an NGO sponsoring them, making sure they show up, and they have a genuine asylum claim. Then you release them, and then they have a court date, and they have to show up. And if they don't show up, they can never be a citizen, and they get booted from the country. So... But I'm just kidding. It's MS-13, and we're just letting them in hordes, and the Biden administration is going, is there, would you like an apartment, on the north side of most cities?
Instead of catching them,
we're sending you to Minnesota.
And bringing them back to their country. And many of these people are stone cold and very hard convicts and prisoners.
Well, I mean, you're the one who looked. I avoided glancing.
Prisoners, they're very tough. I mean, literally, as I said, they are emptying their jails, and not just the three countries, not just Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador.
No, all of them.
Many countries are coming in, and they're emptying out their prisons and letting them come into our country, and they're walking.
So let me get this right. Rapists, murderers, killers of all stripes, guys who play three-card Monte, bad check writers, tickling bandits, lots of horrible people. And so Guatemala and Honduras is letting those people out. And those people, they have an agreement with them. The Mexican government has an agreement with them that they can they can walk through the country just as long as they don't act on their baser instincts until they get in the United States.
Walking in caravans and other ways.
Yeah, there's some hot air balloons. Yeah, hang gliders. Some of them dig.
What's happening? So I never saw anything so stupid in my life until the last few days with Afghanistan. That blows the stupidity of the southern border away. What happened and what is happening.
He's still pushing this. Is the biggest embarrassment
in Afghanistan is unbelievable. And we're being set up by very tough people that are very great negotiators. I'll tell you what, they're great, automatically great negotiators.
Yeah, it's in their blood. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like George Soros is just naturally good with money, and some people have natural rhythm, and other people naturally have great genes. You know, some people are just natural negotiators.
They've been fighting for 1,000 years.
Yes, process and release is more correct in the wording. Agreed, Jude.
And everything about them, they negotiate. We're being set up. They have all of those people, and in a certain way, I guarantee you, they consider them to be hostages. And let's see what happens over the...
Oh, he's talking about... I see. The Taliban are born negotiators, which is, I guess, how they got such a great deal out of this asshole with no conditions. Weird.
Coming weeks. But this is not a story that just ended today or yesterday. This is a story that's going to go on for a long time. And
yeah, you know how long it's not going to go on? 20 more fucking years.
it could be a very, very bad ending.
Yeah, well, it is an ending. I will, you gotta, thanks for at least bringing that up.
We have
He's talking about Afghanistan now, in case his odd word salad wandering has confused you at all.
Americans caught behind enemy lines right now.
Enemy lines.
And we were told this could never...
So you negotiated with the enemy. So he negotiated with the enemy. We're going to stick with that.
...ever happen, and it happened. Let me ask you about energy.
5 over easy pieces. Look, I think it's time. I think you know it's time. 5
eggs.
Yeah, it's time to get out the 5
5
eggs.
eggs in a month.
That's right, but we need 5 eggs in the chat room right now.
5 eggs.
Please put 5 eggs everywhere you can.
Eat 2 eggs a day.
Right, so to have 3 eggs left over, we need
5 eggs.
Thank you very much. All right.
One of the reasons I had, for many years, been an advocate of energy independence, because what happens in the Straits of Hormuz and in the Middle East are not really that important. You accomplished something in your administration. I don't think you got a lot of credit for it, but you made America energy independent for the first time in 70.
Yeah, because we weren't using any energy. And Russia and Saudi Arabia were overproducing.
5 years. I don't think in the last months of your administration you imported a single barrel of oil.
Yeah, but you know what we did have to import? Some, well, I don't know if we had to import them. I think Canada had to let us borrow some initially, and then we had to make some of our own. Refrigerated morgue trucks. You fucking fire plug.
From Saudi Arabia, for example,
0.
not one. And now we just had in the last 2 weeks.
So nothing. You didn't nothing. Thanks, Jake. Let's see. Trump. Let's see what Trump, Saudi Arabia. Let's see what that brings us. Just a simple Google search. Well, yeah. U.S.-Saudi ties were especially close under Trump. This is November 12th, 2020. Under Biden, that looks likely to change. Love you. Love you too. No, love you. I just want to have a picnic. All right. When President Donald Trump visited Saudi Arabia on his first official foreign visit in 2017, he was showered with pageantry and flanked by a herd of horsemen carrying Saudi and American flags. There he is. And he did this. He's dancing around, and he did his little bow. And then there's Pompeo with him. They just hung out. It was a good time. Trump's top 11 favors to Saudi Arabia. This is 2019. That was only in 2019. Hello. Vetoed 3 congressional bills aimed at stopping more than $8 billion in arms sales to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The last favor by a commander-in-chief who's made a point of lavishing praise on the Saudi kingdom while avoiding public criticism. From his earliest days in office, Trump has cultivated Saudi Arabia and placed it at the center of his foreign policy in the Middle East. Gee, I wonder why that is, because if Russia's not going to give you any more money, these assholes might.
Joe Biden begging OPEC to increase production.
Was he begging?
Because it still is the lifeblood of the world's economy.
No, it isn't.
My question is...
It's not the lifeblood. Otherwise, like, oil futures would be guiding the market, and they're clearly not.
With gas up $1.30 a gallon...
Back, because people are driving again.
This is now a new tax on the American people.
No, it's the same thing as the Remain in Mexico policy. There's a combination of going back to the normal level and the pent-up demand. I mean, statistically, that's what you're getting.
That means the cost of delivering every single product in every grocery store, drugstore, every Homes Depot and
Homes Depot. Yo, what's up, Holmes? Just hanging out the depot.
Lowe's is...
And Lobes, is it?
Product in every grocery store, drugstore, every Homes Depot and Lowe's is costing Americans more, and inflation on top of it at 5.4%, a 15-year high. Your reaction to that aspect of the economy alone?
We had the greatest, and we had energy independence. We had the greatest economy.
Energy independence was one of my greatest achievements, I thought. I think the vaccine, energy independence, what we did on the border, frankly, Afghanistan...
Yeah, he actually threw the race last year. He was just tired of winning.
Would have been great. We would have been out, and we would have been out with dignity and with pride, and it would have worked out great.
Yes, MIT is perfecting the solid-state battery. We're about 2 years away from them start hitting the market in any major way. At this point, and there's going to be, as soon as that happens, there's going to be a force accelerator in that market, eliminating the need for lithium-ion and just using metal. We're going to go buy a bunch of Afghan scrap metal to make batteries.
None of this stuff going. This, though, again, it's not the concept of leaving. It's the way they withdrew. It was not even possible to believe. But
well, I believe it. I mean, I think we all believe, to a large extent, that there was no there, and that there was no way to do this without this happening.
Gasoline, as you know, was $1.87 when I was leaving office.
Because no one was going anywhere, because 500,000 Americans had died, and you done fuck all.
And now it's going to be up to over $5 very soon.
Well, that whole supply and demand thing.
Soon. And they're talking to OPEC. I know the OPEC people very well. You know
OPEC. Basically, he knows OPEC better than the dead dinosaurs do.
About negotiators, they're killing us. And what you didn't say is that...
Why? They're selling oil on the market. They're competing with everybody else.
Biden failed with OPEC. They told him no on the cutbacks. They failed with OPEC.
On cutbacks? I thought he was asking them to increase production.
To think that we're back to...
Yeah. Hold on one second. Oil, OPEC, prices. Let's see. Here we go. The preliminary. Here you go. So this is. Let's see. Let's look at this little chart, shall we? Look at this guy. Oil prices 1960 to 1921. To 2021. Where's this? Statista. All right. That's fine. So here's 2018. There you go. There you go. 2018. This is when we were recovering from the this. So it dropped. Look at this drop. Do you think Obama gets credit for this drop? You think anybody? Dink, dink, dink. To 2016. You think? All right. But here we are. 2017. This is trunk on in. There you go. Bing. And then in 2019, and then boink, and then it drops down when no one's going anywhere to 41.47, and then it's back up to 65. Still lower than the 2018 peak currently, and seems to be steady at that point. We will watch as this plays out over the next little bit, but that's a curious thing. He's not going to bring up price of oil. Oh, and this is just OPEC crude, by the way. Oil has was $140 a barrel in 2008. Yeah. This is just OPEC, by the way. This is the OPEC price from 1960 to 2021. That said, let's see. Oil prices currently. Let's see. Get back in here. All. There we go. Let's just go to news. Yeah, that. Oil prices post lowest settlement since May as COVID remains elephant in the room. Oil futures on Wednesday post their lowest settlement since May, with concern about COVID's impact on energy demand pressuring prices, even as the U.S. government data revealed a more than 3 million barrel weekly decline in domestic crude inventories. The Energy Information Administration on Wednesday reported that U.S. crude inventories fell by 3.2 million barrels for the week ending August 13. On average, analysts polled by S&P Global Platts forecast a decline of 3.1 million barrels for crude stocks, while the American Petroleum Institute on Tuesday reported a 1.2 million barrel decline. The EIA numbers show a decline in crude and distilled inventories and a small increase in gasoline stocks, which should be bullish, indicating that U.S. oil demand is not significantly affected by rising COVID case numbers. Michael Lynch, president of Strategic Energy and Economic Research, SEER, which cannot see the future, for the record, told MarketWatch that data should be supportive of prices in the near term, putting a floor of about 65 with a pressure towards 70. However, COVID is the elephant in the room. West Texas Intermediate crude for September. Deliveries, CL00, negative 1.26% fall, 1.31% fall, 1.7%, settled at 65.46 a barrel in New York. Investors are worried that oil prices went too high during its rallying phase when optimism was sky high about demand returning to normal, but now investors are forced to reassess those rosy views and are realizing that demand is actually a little softer. This is what drove the price up. That's what caused the spike. Hold on, let me blow this up for you guys because it's a bit much. There you go. Investors are worried about oil prices, are worried that oil prices went too high during its rallying phase when optimism was sky high about demand returning to normal. But now investors are forced to reassess those rosy views and are realizing that demand is actually a little softer. That's going to take the price down. They were just trying to oh shit, we're making money again. That's it. So, just for the record. But we had energy independence. We were doing the greatest thing.
To negotiating with OPEC. That's how we got into the Middle East years ago, because we needed the energy, and we went into the Middle East and would protect countries because we needed the energy.
Yeah, that's less and less the case. By the way, I'm glad you're coming around on wind and solar then.
We didn't have to do that anymore. We were energy independent, and now those wells are shut down and those jobs are gone, and Keystone is, and its numbers 48,000 jobs, not 8,000 jobs. Those
people, temporary when you build it, but then, I mean, obviously, we do not calculate, he's right, we do not calculate certain jobs that would be created by the Keystone Pipeline, which would be, of course, large cleanup crews to help stop the damage when it leaks, and when it gets into the groundwater, all the medical professionals that will have to treat all the people who, have toxic reactions to oil in their water.
And they lied in the campaign because Biden never talked about closing up Keystone.
Does he? I mean, honestly, do we even have to? Biden campaign, Keystone statement. This is like fucking fish in a barrel. You're making it boring for me, dude. Let's see. Let's go to videos. Oh, here's a bunch. This is May 18th.
You were able to...
This qualifies as kind of a never moment. He never said that. Hold on one second. There you go. Did they go in here? Does he talk to the interview? Okay, where's... All right, let me go back to this one. Let's just look at this one. Biden campaign said he would rescind Keystone Pipeline permit if elected. May 18th, 2020. He never talked about it. He never mentioned it. He didn't run on it. He kept it a big secret from everybody.
He said, oh, well, and they lied in the campaign because Biden never talked about closing up Keystone. He said, oh, well, we'll look at it. We'll look at it. They were lying because it was almost the first day that they closed up Keystone. And
yeah, he said he would do it on the first day. It was a selling point. Feature, not a bug. Something you're familiar with.
Those workers are devastated.
Yeah, that's why with the infrastructure bill and with the rescue package, it was meant to create jobs where they could go to instead.
And the head of
stuff that would actually help the country, like fixing bridges and shit like that. Stuff they're very qualified to do that would long-term help the country instead of helping a Canadian shale oil company.
Union, they all support me, but the head of the union supported Biden, and they ought to throw him the hell out because he was worthless, because look what happened. But they lied about so many things. They lied about energy. They lied about Keystone. They lied about the military.
So, yeah, it's the same thing. Just say the same thing 3 times.
They lied about so much. Our country is in such trouble.
Mr. President,
such trouble. Oh, if only we could have a Canadian shale oil pipeline dripping oil into our aquifers and stay in Afghanistan. Things would be so much better.
You touched on Russia. I want to go back to it because we saw these massive cyber attacks.
We did see them in 2018 and 2019. He didn't do anything.
In their
2020.
Energy grid and also our food line, especially with our meats in this country.
Our food line.
And
our food line.
And
no. He's the guy who had food lines. Just saying.
And we also witnessed, and you referenced it earlier in the interview, the waiver that you prevented Vladimir Putin from getting, which allowed him to build the pipeline that is literally the
Nord Stream.
lifeblood of the economy of our allies in Western Europe, while simultaneously.
Wait a minute. Is the lifeblood of the economies of our allies in Europe? So Russia sells them oil that they need for the lifeblood of the European economy, or they don't, and they sell arms to make up that money to Iran and North Korea and possibly China and shit like that. And again, it's easier to shut off the pipeline than to sink a bunch of ships.
Simultaneously cutting out the Keystone XL pipeline, high-paying career jobs for Americans.
Career. Yeah, you have a career cleaning up oil spills.
And I've got to ask, because if it was you or your...
Trump looks great right now, by the way. Dude, you don't look at all like a frog. I don't know what anybody's talking about.
Sons, and let's see, what do they have in common? Russia, Hunter Biden got a lot of money. China...
Well, no, Rosemont Seneca got money from the mayor's wife of Moscow, who turned that guy in and needed to fuck off, so she needed to take what little money she had, which was a lot of money, but a little compared to everybody else, and turn it into a lot of money so she could leave and to save her life. Well,
they didn't do a deal with Goldman Sachs. They didn't do a deal with Deutsche Bank. They did a deal with Hunter Biden, $1.5 billion, with the Bank of China. And again, the Joe Biden has said nothing to threats against our military or, quote, reunification threats with Taiwan, or you must get permission to land an airplane in Taiwan, which I never thought would happen, or get lectured on human rights. My question then is, if the last name was Trump and your sons were making money in China, Russia, Kazakhstan...
Do I really have to look up all the clips of Eric and Don Jr. talking about how much money they're making in China and Russia?
Ukraine. If your sons lied on a gun application and threw that gun in a garbage basket or waste basket, if
it was a dumpster,
your sons were on video with smoking crack and with hookers.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he's on.
Would the question not logically become, do you believe these countries have compromising materials, potentially, the very thing, remember Adam Schiff, compromising materials, on Trump when they didn't have it and he was being scammed? Do you see any potential for compromise here? Because it doesn't make sense to me to give Putin...
Uh-huh. Now, this is the guy he's going to ask about compromise. This should be good.
Putin a waiver?
So this story, the new tape that just came out 2 days ago, has not been on any mainstream media at all. It was on your show and a couple of shows, but no mainstream. It wasn't on NBC or CBS or ABC.
Yeah, none of the good stuff. It's been on your shitty little show, Sean. But, you know, not real shows. Ouch.
ABC. It wasn't on CNN. It wasn't on any. It's Hunter Biden. It's the worst thing I've seen. You can't even imagine this. And look.
By the way, I don't know why the pivot point is your lack of imagination. I can imagine a lot of shit. And by the way, part of your job is you can imagine even the crazy outcomes. That's what the Defense Department is for in a lot of ways.
I hope families live well. But what they're doing is they're doing political persecutions with their prosecutors, whether they're local or federal.
That's what it is. It goes back to his taxes.
And our people didn't do that. The Republicans don't do it to anywhere. I mean, it's like a different world. They
are so weak. I mean, honestly, your whole party's run by rhinos. It's got to be rough.
Prosecutors for persecution. And it's happening, and our country is angry about it, and they see.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say angry. I would say miffed.
But what's going on with Hunter and China and Russia and all of that? I mean, they go after people for tiny little things. And
yeah, little $72 million things.
And here's somebody that took vast amounts of money out of China and out of Ukraine and out.
Yeah, but the money he took out of China, he didn't take out. He joined the company 4 years later. But that money wasn't theirs. They had to watch it make money, and then they made money if it made money. They were investment executives. That's what the company did. They basically were shepherds for cash. They didn't get to keep it. They only got to keep a portion of the profit, not even the profit from it. It's not like, tell you what, take my $1 billion and park it somewhere, and then you can have a piece of it when I get it back. No, it's not that way it works. Park it someplace where it's going to make me money, and then you get a small percentage of like 2% to 5% of what it makes.
Out of Russia?
As a company. Lots of companies do that.
$3.5 million from the mayor's wife, and Chris Wallace wouldn't let me talk about that during a debate. He wouldn't even let me bring it up. Well, that has nothing to do. I said, it has a lot to do with it.
Well, it doesn't.
But it's a very sad period of time for our country.
It is. And by our country, he means him and Mar-a-Lago.
Everything's going bad. We have inflation.
Everything's bad. Everything is bad. It's true. I mean, sure, oil prices are coming down, and we don't have Keystone Pipeline, and we had better industrial numbers. Hold on, let me look it up right now. Auto manufacturing for July. You have to understand, everything is going terrible. Oh. Let's see. Everything. Let's see. He's right, man. Everything. Look at this. It's terrible. Everything. Every time you turn around, it's everything is going to shit. Let's see. Look at probably vaccinations are probably down. Oh. Well, yeah. Starting to go back up again. That's not. Let's see. U.S. will begin wide distribution booster shots. U.S. workers lean in favor of workplace mandate. Oh, look at that. That's Pfizer, Moderna booster shots. Plans September use to advise booster shots. COVID-19 vaccine state tracker. Let's see. Percentage of by state. Here you go. These are the vaccination states. These are the states that don't tell you anything. Insufficient data. That's adorable. That's adorable. This is the. It's weird the Devin Nunes areas suck. Telling you what's up. All of Georgia. Nice job, Brian Kemp. All ages, at least one dose, 60%. 51% are fully vaccinated. 12 and up, 70-60. 18 and up, 72-62. 65 and up, 91-81. That's pretty solid since they're the ones who die the most often. I understand what you're saying. Everything, it's never been this bad.
Economy's going to go to hell.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, look at the auto numbers.
We have inflation like we haven't seen in a long time. I think.
Okay, hold on one second. That may be true. Let's find out. Let's see. Inflation, and then we'll just look at the news right here. I'll look in here. Let's see. Oh, this is terrible. I mean, look at that. Look at this. Look at this. This is awful. 179 reasons why you probably don't need to panic about inflation. Canadian inflation jumps to 3.7%, troubling Green Joe. 1 million vaccines, soaring wages fuel UK inflation fears. So it's worldwide, but blame Biden while you're at it. College in America is an injury, tuition inflation. Fed minutes likely detail bond buying taper talks, inflation worries. Here's what Vanguard found to be the most potent inflation fighting asset class. Inflation is higher in the U.S. than elsewhere, but don't panic. This is the Wall Street Journal. Now, this is, you have to understand, this is Rupert Murdoch's paper. So, U.S. Eurozone. Look at that. Look at it tapering off. That's weird. June to July. Look at inflation. Just kind of, that's weird. The whole month. Just kind of stayed right there, did it? Eurozone's still going up. Ours tapered. That's when it just went straight flattened. While prices in the Eurozone appear to rise more slowly, the difference isn't best explained by inflationary economic policies in Washington. America likes being exceptional, but too much exceptionalism when it comes to inflation is starting to cause concern. A closer look at the data suggests that investors can keep calm. On Wednesday, official figures confirmed that the Harmonized Computer Price Index in the Eurozone rose 2.2% in July from earlier the year. This marked an acceleration relative to June, when inflation was 1.9%, but stripping out energy, food, alcohol, tobacco prices, see what is dubbed core inflation, the index rose 0.7%, down from 0.9% the previous month. What is surprising isn't inflation being too strong in the Eurozone, but rather it being too weak relative to the U.S., where the CPI growth reached 5.4% in July, with core inflation at 4.3%. Officials argue that today's inflation is only temporary. Higher prices, global price rebound from the troughs of pandemic and companies working through supply bottlenecks. Yet, if it is so much higher in the U.S., doesn't this mean that excessive fiscal and monetary policy are driving the economy, since transfers to households have been less generous in Europe and could trigger a dangerous delayed reaction by the Federal Reserve? Some economists think so. Why is inflation higher in the U.S. than, there you go. Used cars and trucks are driving the price index up. Rent of residence is also doing it because UI has caused some rent rises in places. Hotels are jacking their prices because fewer people are using them. Apparel, clothing prices has gone up because of bottlenecks in supply. Transportation ex airfares. So train tickets are 0.19% points higher. The sum of the rest, that solves it. Once compared with U.S. data, however, Wednesday figures show that more than half of the 3.2 percentage point gap between inflation figures across the Atlantic can be explained away by two factors. First is America's reliance on used cars, which make up 3.5% of their consumption baskets, versus 1.1% for Europeans. So we just buy more used cars and we have more cars in circulation than the Europeans. Automakers are having production issues due to microchip shortages, so more people are buying good used cars. In Europe, consumers have delayed car purchases. In the U.S., they have bid the price of used cars up 42%. There you go, kids. 42% rise in used car prices could almost single-handedly explain the inflation metric in the United States. No one's ever seen anything like this. And it's all Biden. It has nothing to do with chip bottlenecks or any of the normalcy of it. Thank you, Diana. The fucking dumbassery in this.
It's much worse if you look just at energy. And when energy goes up, everything goes up because it's all about energy.
No. No, it isn't. Here's all the drivers of inflation in the United States. Here's a used cars. It is underclothes, airfares, restaurants, catering, energy, new vehicles. There's energy. There it is. It's like right up there with new vehicles. There's 0.3%, 0.13 percentage points. That's it. Energy. That's our energy thing across across all types. Heating oil being the biggest driver in the winter months. During the summer, it doesn't necessarily count in there. So you're talking about gas prices. Summer gas prices balance that part of it out. But across all parts of it, the lowering of heating oil in the summer versus the rise in gas prices, because when people drive and travel a lot, especially where you have to wear a mask on a plane, so a lot more people drove this summer and shit like that. And since they didn't sell a lot of gas last year, everybody wants to sell more gas this year, so they're jacking the price up to cover their losses last year, which you would expect them to fucking do because it's not a goddamn charity. And here's energy. These are the drivers. These are primary drivers of U.S. inflation. Other recreational services. Hello. And some of the rest almost equals energy. That's the driver. A whole percentage point is just used cars and trucks going up 42%. And rent went up because in a lot of areas people were getting money from the government. And a lot of people also were renting temporary houses while they either built a house that was delayed or were between houses. There's a supply problem in real estate, period, end of story. But keep in mind, this asshole, I just showed you the chart. That's the Wall Street Journal. It's a Rupert Murdoch paper. They're not padding the numbers to make Biden look like shit or to make Trump look like a hero. That's just what they are. And this asshole wants to tell you that energy is the driving point in all of this. And it ain't. Guys, we're very happy to welcome the trolls in here. That's totally fine. Again, they help us extend our reach across all media. So thanks. Whether it's YouTube or Twitch or Facebook or Twitter, if you're a troll, we want to thank you for being here. The rest of us want to be here. You have to be here. And your eyeballs and your comments, especially when you give us a thumbs down or you actually write something, all the algorithms go, holy shit, not only is this show engaging, but it made this person stop passively watching and engage by writing something. So it's a win-win for everybody. And thanks very much. And everybody in the chat room, of course, enjoy yourselves as well. We gotta get on with this piece because I'm running really late tonight because I'm enjoying myself.
Everything goes up, but
everything.
Look at the price of food where it's being doubled, and
the price of food where it's being doubled. The price of food is being doubled. Just for the record, the price of food is not being doubled. But maybe he has a specific reference. Maybe milk is twice as much.
Tripled?
Tripled. Oh, it's tripled. I'm sorry. I honestly, it took me a moment. I honestly thought we were going to stop at doubled.
In some cases, we're going to have inflation that's good. And I remember with Jimmy Carter, and the good thing is for Jimmy is that Jimmy's looking like a much better president right now. Because
his employment numbers were twice what yours were. I mean, you call him one of the worst presidents ever, but his job growth was twice yours. That's weird. You're both one-term presidents, and his job growth with fewer people alive at the time was better than yours. 1-to-1. That's got to be rough. You had 50% the job growth that Jimmy Carter had. Owie. Ooh, it's got a ow. Yikes. Yes, 5 eggs now cost you. You can only 10 eggs cost you. You can only get 5 eggs for the price of 10 now.
5 eggs.
Excuse me. But let's see. Food prices. I have to look this up. Food prices. U.S. inflation. Let's just grab what we have here as far as information. Doubled is what he said, right? They have doubled. Food inflation July 21. 12-month CPI ended July 2021. Major categories increases or decreases shown in percent. This is the 1968 to 2021. 12-month CPI ended in July 2021. Increase in there. Chart. Food inflation. Here's food inflation. Let's do this up, shall we? This is the inflation prices. Is usinflationcalculator.com is where we're getting these details from, just in case you want to know it. Yes, 5 eggs for the trolls. Here is, look at that in 2016. This is interesting. Right at the end of the Obama administration. I think they're going into 20, Trump took over right here. This is the last year of the Obama administration. Inflation was negative 0.1%. This is last year's food inflation during the pandemic. This is this year's food inflation as we continue to deal with this. No one's ever seen anything like this, according to Trump. No one's ever seen anything like this. Well, last year we saw 3.9%, and this year it's gone down. And it's on par with 2014, and both of them are less than 2011, as far as inflation goes. So, there's that. 3.4%. This is, now, granted, I know what you're thinking. Hal, this doesn't look like it doubled to me. This is not, 3.4% is not 50 or 200% as far as the price. It's in line with the increase in wages. Exactly. And this is all stimulus padding. This is people getting stimulus money. Yes, and Robin, thank you for the 5 eggs, $5 and 5 eggs. That's a great way to do it. Thank you very much. So no one's ever seen, remember Trump is saying food prices have doubled and tripled, and this is the number, which is less. If they doubled and tripled this year under Biden, what the fuck is this then? Okay. This is adorable. We're almost through this nonsense.
You're comparing, you always have to have comparisons.
Yes, you do. I think it's good to compare, like this year and last year. Here's this year, 3.4%. This is last year, 3.9%. This is 10 years ago. This is 4.5%. That's the comparison I would do. But no one's ever seen anything like this before in the world and history and everything.
But I remember with Jimmy Carter, with the big inflation, the prime rate went to 21%, and the country came to a halt, worse than a halt.
Worse than a halt. A negative halt.
Well, I'll tell you, we better get our act together. That's all I can say. You look at what's going on.
Well, we are. Let's say if your goal is for inflation to come down, since it was higher last year, this is us getting our act together. Theoretically.
On with our economy and with inflation and so many other things.
Yeah, everything. I mean, the wall, circus peanuts.
Anwar in Alaska, biggest drilling site in the world. I got it open. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it for 67. They've been trying for 60, 70 years. I got it done. And it was just terminated.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Also, one of the other things that Biden ran on and did.
The biggest site in the world.
Yes, right. But also...
probably bigger than Saudi Arabia in terms.
Well, yeah, Saudi Arabia's run out of oil basically a long time ago. They got very little. I mean, Russia has more. Venezuela has a lot more. Saudi Arabia is cash poor right now. They're flipping out. That's why they're building Dubai into like a giant Disneyland for assholes.
In terms of oil, I got it done, and they just.
By the way, Dubai, I've been there. I've been to the Burj Khalifa. Dubai's a dump. Like, it is a gold toilet in the middle of a junkyard. It's frigging ridiculous.
Terminated it. And the people of Alaska are very upset.
Well, yeah, because they get a check for all the oil produced in Alaska. The rest of us don't, though, even though it's one of the 50 states and yeah.
Okay, they are very upset with their Senator, Murkowski, and others. But here's the greatest thing, and they ended it. So
why? She didn't do it.
We had energy independence, and now we don't.
It's rough, yeah.
Instead of begging OPEC...
we're not begging. We're just not buying it at that level. Let's see. Let's just see what the current state of things is. I'm just going to have to look up fucking everything for these assholes. Let's see. OPEC plan, Biden draws IRView, progressives called to boost OPEC output. IRView, Biden's foolish enemy, Trump, U.S. president. That's the Advocate. Big oil blast Biden for turning to OPEC for more crude. Okay. This is CNN Business. Gee, who's mad? Big oil blasts Biden for turning to OPEC for more crude. Big Oil is not pleased with the White House's push this week for more crude from OPEC and its allies. The American Petroleum Institute, the powerful lobby group that represents the U.S. oil and gas industry, is arguing President Joe Biden should be working to boost oil production at home before looking overseas. By the way, boosting that production overseas and telling them to do it lowers the price because it puts more on the market. It does not mean we're buying from OPEC. See what I mean? You have to buy eggs, and there's you want 5 eggs. You can only afford 4 because the guy next door, his chickens only produce...
Eat 2 eggs a day.
Right, they only produce 2 eggs. So you need 5 eggs.
5 eggs.
And so what you do is you ask other egg producers to produce more eggs, and the person you buy from has to lower their price to compete because there's more eggs on the market. You think the first place you would go to be American producers rather than OPEC, which literally held this country hostage for decades because they were our top supplier. They're not our top supplier anymore, not even close. In response, White House officials stressed the importance of reliable and stable energy markets at this critical moment. President Biden has made it clear he wants Americans to have access to affordable energy, including at the pump. Goldman Sachs Biden OPEC Plus outreach unlikely to work. And those guys have always been on our side. The national average price of gasoline stands near a 7-year high at $3.18 a gallon, up from $2.18 a year ago when no one was going anywhere. Higher energy prices are a reflection of supply. What was the average? Why didn't you put in the average from 2019 or 20? Why didn't you put that in there? Why would you not? Because it's the same. Higher energy prices are a reflection of supply failing to catch up with surging demand as people fly and drive more now that they've been vaccinated. OPEC and its allies, like Russia, known collectively as OPEC Plus, continue to hold back supply they took offline at the onset of the pandemic. They've only gradually added barrels. Yeah, because they need the money. The Biden administration on Wednesday called on OPEC to do more to combat elevated energy prices. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said in a statement that OPEC Plus must do more to support the recovery worldwide because we rely on the economies of Europe and stuff where they actually sell their shit. This is like a message from our European allies. It's a strategic thing. Like, I don't know why. Like, how linear do things need to be for these assholes? In a note to clients on Thursday, Goldman Sachs strategist said the White House's outreach to OPEC Plus is unlikely to persuade be effective in the short term. Okay, I thought I was not reading that right. Unlikely to persuade be effective in the short term. Okay. The Wall Street firm cited concerns about weakening demand because of the Delta variant. That's the problem, which will drive the price down, and that's why the price is going down again. Fossil fuels crackdown. The API, which is vested interest in domestic energy production, said unleashing U.S. oil producers would be a better solution. You'd think, because that's their money, right? It started under President Obama. We should be doing everything we can to encourage... Oh, beg your pardon. Under who? We should be doing everything we can to encourage production in the United States, said Summers, whose group represents ExxonMobil and Chevron and other major U.S. oil companies who have never done anything to harm the environment or the people. Summers criticized the Biden administration for its regulatory crackdown on the fossil fuels industry. The irony sure is thick. We're talking about an administration that really, for the first 8 months in office, did nothing but to try to restrict American development of oil and gas. Well, it's because it poisons our country, and we're going to buy a bunch of shit that's pulled out of the ground. Better to do it in an area where it's pulled out of the desert as opposed to our national parks where our water is often stored. So, anyways, like energy. Sorry, these guys look like they're having a great time. I have no doubt.
Well, Governor Abbott, we're praying for him tonight. I know.
Oh yeah, you pray. You seem like a guy who prays, and I'm sure when you pray, it's legit and very heartfelt.
That it was he announced that he had COVID today, another breakthrough case. Instead of begging OPEC, why don't we just go back to doing what was working for you instead of allowing millions?
Well, we hadn't actually gotten into Anwar, had we? That's not why the prices were where they were. The prices are where they are because demand is up. We never went in there. So the amount of oil we were producing pre-2020 was sufficient considering, but those guys are restricting the amount. So American oil providers are selling their shit overseas at a higher price. So it makes it more expensive here because we're chasing the prices over there. Whereas if Russia and Saudi Arabia, who supply mostly Europe and those kind of things, present more on the market, then we can buy it from our own producers at home at a lower rate. This is literally a gun to the head of the American consumer by Exxon and Chevron.
People into this country with a high rate of COVID positivity in the middle of pandemic and then dispersing
in the middle of red states.
Them all around the country. Why don't we go back to the stay in Mexico policy, the border wall building, and end?
Well, the border wall didn't work for shit. I mean, it doesn't work. People are just streaming across the border. They could build a $5 ladder and climb it. I mean, that's why.
Process and release and protect our borders.
Oh, process and release. Look at you using the right phrase there, Sean.
I mean, they seem to be things that could be simply resolved.
It could totally be done. All you have to do is give me 17,000 more votes.
Yeah. Well, nothing simple. You know, the things we won on the border were won through courts. It took a long time, and then all of a sudden they gave them up. We had to make deals with Mexico. The president of Mexico is a great guy. We're very friendly.
But he is dumping rapists out of his prisons and sending them to the United States. But, I mean, we get along great.
We did a deal. I had 28,000 soldiers paid for by Mexico, his soldiers on the border, not letting people in.
Well, we have a wall, I thought, to stop them. Why wouldn't they be on the southern border of Mexico, since the majority of the people who are at the border aren't Mexican?
And we didn't pay anything.
A lot of the Mexican immigrants that come across the border are migrant workers who go home. Most of the people who are stacking up at the border are from Guatemala, Honduras, and all these other countries. So why wouldn't you send them to the southern border of Mexico? No? I just...
Promised not to tariff his cars during this period, but that's okay, whatever it takes. But we didn't have people coming.
Promised not to tariff his cars.
So
I fucked the American auto worker to keep my brown people numbers down.
During the construction of the wall, and the wall worked. I mean, it
did work. It stopped working. I don't know why. It stopped walling at some point.
We built almost 500 miles. They could...
Yeah, and none of it works.
Finish it in a month. Now they're paying billions of dollars not to finish the wall. It's not even believable. And the contract...
Well, yeah, it's not believable.
That haven't...
We're not paying billions of dollars a month to not work.
I mean, they're just having a field day. But when you look at all of this stupidity, I don't think our country can take it, and I don't think our people can take it either.
Let me ask you,
what the fuck are you talking about?
The American people now are watching, what will be a 25 to 30-year record of illegal immigrants coming into the country when you had set a 25-year low.
Yeah, and by you, I mean COVID.
Of illegal immigrants.
Because you are one and the same, essentially. I mean, COVID never could have gotten the numbers it got without you in charge, so...
Immigrants coming into the country. The American people now,
Sean, real quick. What's the 25-year high in, say, Americans dying of a novel coronavirus?
Angry about mask mandates, vaccine passports, but none of these restrictions are being applied to people that are not respecting our laws, our borders, and our sovereignty.
Well, no, they have to wear masks once they're in the facilities. They get tested. We are vaccinating some of them. I think the ones that actually have NGO status or have their asylum claims getting heard are getting vaccinated. This is so weird.
How do you explain that?
We had the best something.
And do you support the restrictions on Americans but not illegal immigrants?
Well, there are restrictions on it. Honestly, I don't know how many illegal immigrants tried to go to Lollapalooza.
Yeah. First of all, on the border, it's not 25 years. It's the worst in history. It's not the worst in 25 years. We've never had a situation.
Well, yeah, it is. It's very similar.
Situation where massive caravans of people.
There are not massive caravans of people.
Are pouring into our country.
They're not pouring into our country.
So it's the worst ever.
I would say that's not the best footage to put up if you're saying massive caravan. It looks like a bunch of women and one dude and some kids walking on a dirt road. That just doesn't, I don't know. Can we talk to the graphics department about this? Because I know he's going to bring it up, and I know we need some footage to roll, but it doesn't scream massive caravan to me. We've got all that footage from the southern border, but if people know it's the southern border, then yeah.
As far as the vaccine, I'm very proud of it. I pushed the FDA like they've never been pushed. They don't like me too much. I'm not so sure I like them. Very bureaucratic. But I got them to
Yeah, those damn safety checks.
approve a great vaccine, 3 of them, in a period of less than
Why
9
didn't you show the needle go in? You squeamish?
months. I was told by Fauci and everybody else it would take 3 to 5 years, and probably 5, and it probably won't even happen. And
That's how many believes, hands up, how many people believe that that's how Fauci said it? It'd probably be 5 years, if at all. I don't even think we're ever going to find a vaccine for this shit. Because that's how CDC and the NIH talk about shit.
got it done in less than 9 months. So
Really? Because, and by the way, why he says we got it done in less than 9 months. No, you didn't. It's still on emergency use authorization. The swine flu, Obama got that shot. His outbreak started in May, and he got it by December. He got the shot himself at the same time you did, and his outbreak started 5 months later.
consider it a great achievement. I actually think that if we didn't get it done worldwide, you would have another Spanish flu, which killed almost 100 million
Please say the year. Please say the year and get it wrong again. Please say the year and get it wrong again.
people, according to history.
Mr. President.
History. Yeah, just history in general.
50 to 100. They don't even know.
They don't know.
But I would love people to take the vaccine. In the meantime, wear your mask if you want. But
If you want.
again, you want your freedoms. You have to have your freedoms.
You have to have your freedoms. And now the other people you're interacting with, they should have a freedom to know they're possibly catching a disease from you. So maybe a button, maybe something that says fuck vaccines so that I know to avoid you in a mall.
Let me, I know the obvious question as we head with the last minute of the program available.
Yeah, you're running out of time. I mean, we'd love to keep talking to you, but I got to sit in the lobby and wait for the limo.
Is are you considering a run again in 2024? I'll let you answer it any way you want, but
Semaphore? How about he uses an Aldous lamp? Maybe a ventriloquist dummy that looks like Eric.
I'll go back to our original question. Now that we have all these Americans behind enemy lines, do you have...
I love this. He's so desperately pushing the behind enemy lines thing. Yeah, it's a total Black Hawk Down moment.
In the 45 seconds we have left,
The 45 seconds we have left, can you please turn this into something that I can use? Because this has been a total waste of fucking time. 1 second, real quick. Let's see. Let's see. This with the... News: Biden administration funds zoning on Biden defends laser. Last second French evacuation flight for Kabul lands in Paris. Taliban keeping evacuation use finish airlift. Pentagon official rush to defend evacuation efforts against the President Ghani says he left the event. That makes sense. Hold on. U.S. Latest. When is this? 18 hours ago. 2 hours ago. Trying to get the updated. Let's see. 14. Biden administration faces daunting odds of pulling off massive Afghanistan evacuation in 2 weeks. The Biden administration is struggling to answer basic questions about whether it can successfully evacuate tens of thousands of Americans and vulnerable Afghans in a race against the ticking clock. The U.S. military's August 31st Afghanistan withdrawal. Yeah, because if they tell you, they'd have to kill you. On Tuesday, U.S. officials across the government provided some details about the plans for the massive U.S. evacuation, but many key specifics remain unanswered. Yeah, like what time they're leaving, where the people that are going to leave live currently. You know, could you just give the Taliban a map or something? But many key specifics, including exactly how many Americans are still in Afghanistan and where they are and how much money they have on them. And how many Afghans the U.S. military believes it can evacuate, and whether the plan will extend beyond the withdrawal deadline just 2 weeks away. At White House briefing, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that the U.S. is relying on a commitment from the Taliban to allow for safe passage to the airport in Kabul, though it's still unclear whether the Taliban will allow Americans, let alone Afghan citizens trying to escape, to reach the airport. In an interview, yeah, they're in the process of doing this. This is called a process. It's a process. It's life is actually occurring in real time. Can we just swipe right and make these people go away? Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby would not say whether the U.S. military was prepared to go out into the countryside to aid those who need to reach Kabul. Also on Tuesday, because if they say that, then people start looking for trucks, and then they will follow them, and they'll go, okay, they're bringing these people out. They're going to come back tomorrow. Who can we kill? Some Americans were told to head to the airport, while others were instructed to continue sheltering in place. It sounds like they have a process that they're working through. The Biden administration is yet to put a number on how many Afghans it expects to evacuate. There were roughly 20,000 applicants in the special immigrant visa pipeline as of mid-July, in addition to their families and other vulnerable Afghans seeking to escape. And where these Afghans will be relocated. The Russian people trying to evacuate is the Taliban. Commitment from the Taliban. This is the whole thing. There's this footage, the picture again. Evacuation plan still coming together because the system is happening. We're going to have to take people. Nobody thought this was going to happen as fast as it did. They thought it was going to happen, but okay. So, but please tell us that there's, and by the way, today's Wednesday. By next Wednesday, we will have airlifted out somewhere in the order of 30,000 people. Minimum.
What would you do now to help with that specific situation?
Specifics. Yeah, give us the specifics, big guy.
So because the campaign finance laws are extremely complicated and unbelievably stupid, I'm actually not allowed to answer that question.
That's bullshit.
Can you believe it? I'd love
No, I don't believe it.
to answer it. But let me put...
Here's the thing. If you answer now, you can no longer raise money through your super PAC. You have to go to a campaign. You won't be able to spend money, and you'll stop. This is not... Oh, God. So his super PAC, his Help America PAC, or it's America First PAC, or whatever the fuck he's calling it right now, he's just siphoning cash from that. And he can do whatever he wants with it. If you have a super PAC, but once you announce your campaign, your candidacy, then you have to separate your super PAC from your campaign. You can't start drawing that money out anymore. That's why.
Put it this way, I think you'll be happy, and I think...
Yes, I will be happy. You're not going to run.
A lot of our friends will be very happy.
Yes, they'll be very happy.
But I'm not actually allowed to answer it. It makes it very difficult if I do.
To raise money on your supporters and spend it keeping your properties afloat.
So... people, you're going to be happy because I love this country and I hate to see what's happening to it.
Would you be willing to get on the...
Why'd that freeze? Would you be...
has dissipated that strength. We are no longer respected.
We're out of time, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed you took the whole campaign question in the last few seconds you had and were able to avoid any specifics on how you would have done things differently in Afghanistan. Funny that. Holy shit, that was long. So we like, and I know I went long before, but I gotta feed the kid. So look at that, 999 rumbles. Satan. What a good time to do 666 right now. So anybody super chats, thank you so much. Thank you very much, David, for subscribing as well. Let's see what he's flipping out about for a couple minutes, and then I'm gonna go leave and feed the kid.
Guys, while Joe
Biden's
back on vacation after taking a whole whopping 10 or 15 minutes out of nap time or ice cream shop time or whatever it is that Joe Biden does.
Your dad golfed more than any president in history.
Because we know
he also shared national secrets in the dining area of his own club in front of people without any clearance.
No, it ain't working.
Well, it is, actually. The system's coming into place.
This note was just sent to American citizens in Afghanistan.
Oh boy, a note.
Requesting to be evacuated.
Was it signed by Epstein's mother?
This is what...
He is very loud. Sorry about that. Let me bring... And he's overmodulated. That's not me. That's his video, I think.
Going on. Now, I'm not even complaining about Joe being on vacation anymore, because frankly, imagine how much worse he'd probably make it if he wasn't on...
Yeah, imagine if he was like... shooting the 1 3-minute video he has to do a day to buy blow money, like Biden, just as a hypothetical. And while he's shooting it, he leaves a television on right behind his own fucking head.
On vacation? That said, if Trump was on vacation while the world burned, I have a feeling the media would have a problem with it. I also have a feeling the media would have a problem with this response just sent out to American citizens who are requesting to be evacuated from now Taliban-controlled Kabul, Afghanistan.
Which your dad negotiated that, the taking of Kabul last year.
This is from CBS, and it basically instructs people...
Wait a minute, you're relying on the fake news to provide you with documentation? I have to call bullshit.
To come to Hamid Karzai International Airport, but says the U.S. government cannot guarantee their safety as
well, yeah, it's a city in flux.
They make the trip.
By the way, does anybody think that you could guarantee someone's safety in Afghanistan before?
And I quote, "To American citizens, thank you for registering your request to be evacuated from Afghanistan. The U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan has confirmed that an undefined number of U.S. government-provided flights will begin soon. Please make your way to Hamid Karzai International Airport at this time."
Right. Yeah, not everybody got that response. Some were told to shelter in place.
Please be advised that the United States government cannot guarantee your security as you make this trip.
Yeah, we're not walking tens of thousands of people with military guides to that place. Yeah, so.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Was that guarantee ever in existence?
Imagine Trump put out that statement.
What do you think they're going to do? Just like walk through the streets in Taliban controlled Afghanistan anywhere? Iraq? Do you think there's a single piece of paper that says, by the way, while you're in sunny downtown, let's find a cool little city and see. Iraq. Where's someplace near the green zone, like a little. Let's see. There's romance. Is there a little neighborhood? Nah, it's just Baghdad. Okay. Never has the U.S. military handed out a note to people who are coming to Iraq for business or pleasure. By the way, enjoy sunny downtown Baghdad. If you run into trouble, just flag down a soldier will save you.
And was on vacation while doing it.
Hello. Okay. Guys.
Where's Kamala, the last person in the room that instructed Joe to go with the plan that they disastrously implemented? Where are all these people? Jen Psaki's on vacation too. Everyone's on vacation while the world burns.
Your dad took a August recess vacation, by the way. You do realize that, right? You do. Your dad's the big orange dude with the weird Fender hairdo.
Imagine it was Trump.
It's easy to imagine. He golfed during COVID.
Imagine the outrage if you basically told American citizens, hey, you're on your own.
Well, you're not on your own. Once you get to the airport, we'll take you out of here or whatever, but it's very dangerous, so be careful.
Congratulations. This is really unbelievable.
No, it's quite believable. It's fucking Afghanistan.
I mean, Americans are going to end up being left behind and killed while the military already evacuated. They got out. They forgot about the 10 to 40,000 Americans.
Wait a minute. We just sent 6,000 troops in to help process this.
I could be there. I mean, who's executing this plan? Obviously, I know the military generals are too worried about critical race theory and pronouns and white rage to actually do their damn jobs. But
no, they were doing their jobs. They were puffing up the Afghan statistics and telling the president that it was much better and you just need a couple more months. And, the shit your dad bought wholesale.
Imagine the Trump administration put this out. It's the most disgraceful.
Well, I can't. I honestly can't. I cannot imagine the Trump administration putting this out because they never left. See, there's nothing to compare it to. See, Biden left. We're out. He got us out of Afghanistan. We're out. We're gone. After this, after we gather everybody up, we're gone. Your dad had every opportunity and didn't. So I have nothing to weigh it against.
Thing perhaps the U.S. government has ever done. But don't worry, guys. Joe's on vacation having ice cream somewhere. So I put this out as a tweet. And it's kind of
it's amazing.
Tongue-in-cheek, but it actually shows the gravity and how disgusting it all is.
Well, no, it actually doesn't. It shows that you don't have a grasp on reality.
To the Americans left stranded in town.
Really? He's reading. This is worse than Mark Levin yesterday. He's reading his own fucking tweets.
Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. Rest easy. Joe Biden assembled the most diverse cabinet and White House staff in American history. They may or may not be competent, but you can't have it all, folks.
That's your best reading of it? They may or may not? That's how you ended it? What? You can't end a zinger like that. You can't roast somebody with a may or may not. Because they may. It just shows you're not paying attention. I mean, call out somebody. Don't worry, this person is in charge, and they fucked up this, so you'll be safe. Like that kind of you'd have to pay attention.
And if you've been watching for the last couple of days, you realize they're not competent. So at least you checked off the diversity box. I'm sure that will matter as maybe the Taliban starts beheading Americans in the streets of Kabul.
Uh-huh. That's what's happening? So that's what we're looking to?
What's going on?
Can I turn down the volume on him? Sorry, yeah. I brought it down a little bit before, but we'll do it a little more.
The media, even the media, doesn't know how to cover for Joe Biden on this gross level of incompetence.
Well, no, they've been attacking him fairly heavily. I'm the one that's coming distinctly out into the open to directly support this action, like an adult. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I also know that we know that all the intel he was getting, and that your dad was getting, and that Obama was getting, quite frankly, was largely based on wishful thinking, and it was endangering American lives, and it was time to go. And the promise was that we were going to go. We were always going to go, so we're going. And there is no version of this where anybody can convince me that it would have gone better.
I'm sure they'll try, but they will fail. Keep
something you know about.
Watching, folks. Please make sure to spread this message so other people see it. Because
what message? You have a Twitter. You read your own tweet on the air. This is not a show. This is not something. Look, we have quality standards around here. I mean, I have my share of technical difficulties, but look at this shit. I put a show together. Nobody has to share you in an office at one of your dad's properties, I guess, reading your own fucking tweets. I mean, a girl's got to have some standards.
Because God knows there aren't institutions out there willing to speak the truth. Get out there, let people understand what's actually going on and how much of it...
You read this from CBS. Hey, fuckstick, you read the memo from CBS. I'm sorry, there's not organizations willing to speak the truth. CBS posted the memo. That's where you got it from. You know, the lamestream media.
Disaster the Democrat and their lunatic policies have gotten. What the generals and their woke ideologies have gotten when they've kept their eyes on a very different prize than winning wars. Sure, they're woke. Sure, they're teaching it. Sure, they've taken over those institutions. But sure as hell, they're not winning wars these days and not doing anything good for the American public.
Well, so it's not good for the American public that we leave Afghanistan. That's your final answer? That's it. We're going to go with that?
All we've done is display our weakness to our enemies, and China and Russia are watching and laughing their asses off.
By the way, this is a common thread with this whole crowd that, and Sean Hannity says this a bunch too, that China and Russia are laughing, apparently. When Russia got out of Afghanistan, we weren't laughing. We were laughing when they were there, to a certain degree, when we weren't shooting action movies. But in reality, once they got out, the response, both from us and the rest of the world, is, okay, there's some soldiers that aren't going to be dead that can fight elsewhere, and some treasure they can spend elsewhere causing trouble around the world.
Thank you for your time.
No, that's not. It's ridiculous. Pentagon, we can evacuate 5,000 to 9,000 people a day. Yeah, that's, I think, that's showing up. Best guess that 5,000 to 10,000 Americans are in Afghanistan. So 2 days to get everybody else out, and then the 20,000. So maybe 4 or 5 days. What did I say? Next Wednesday? Watch for it. Watch for a shift in the news next Wednesday. I would suggest the Biden administration drop the closing of Guantanamo next Thursday. The proposal, or start making noise about it with the idea that it would be, done by the end of the year. I'm just saying. Anybody in the White House who's listening, if you want some good advice, hi there. Oh, God. Now Chris Salcido gives a shit about Afghan women. Forget it. No. Okay, we don't need that shit. We're... There we go. Now we're back. Now we got audio. There we go. Sorry about that. Hi. I'll fix it. I will. Just cut me some slack. I got rid of the echo, and it took some wiggling. So thank you. What I was saying was, thank you guys for joining me. I got to go feed the kid, and it's not my kid, unfortunately. It's my girlfriend's kid. We're gonna get some food. Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. We do the show. Now we're back to being a little later, not 3 o'clock, but 4 o'clock. Back to that standard time as my kid goes back to school. So the time shifts for our family FaceTime a little later. So I appreciate you guys rolling with that. That goes back to our normal Thursday times. And I will be on tomorrow at 4 o'clock and then the regular time on Thursday. And again, next Monday, Zoom show, flapperscomedy.com for tickets. And then the following Wednesday, I will be at Flappers Live. If you're going to come to that show live, you must be vaccinated. So you have to show proof of vaccination. So we can all take our masks off and enjoy ourselves. Yes, it's 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you. Tomorrow. So I will see you guys then. And I said thanks for Ginger for the super chat. I appreciate that. And Amoeba Stampede for gifting the subs. Thank you guys. You have to resubscribe on Twitch regularly, and it's just it's just an ongoing thing. So thank you for resubscribing. Also, like who? Wait, hold on. I saw a resubscribe just. Where is it? There you go. Sharewit. Resubscribed at tier 1. Thank you for doing that. It's your 11th month. Bless you. So subscribe on Twitch, twitch.tv/HalSparks. If you use Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime. And then, of course, subscribing or becoming a member on YouTube, or just subscribing, passing around, share the show, share the clips. That kind of stuff really helps us grow. By the way, we'll always leave the light on for you, trolls, to come and help us spread the word. And Martha, thank you for becoming a patron. I appreciate that. It was nice to see like so many patrons at the show in Huntington Beach this week. That was fantastic. So I will see you guys tomorrow at 4 p.m. my time, 7 p.m. Listen to me, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and have a great night and take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And remember, we take these topics, these ideas, these circumstances, and these situations very seriously, which is why we joke about the assholes that are talking about them like they know what they're doing. And the worst thing we can do is take a serious situation and then listen to assholes like Trump and Sean Hannity and Don Jr. and Salcido and Greg Kelly and listen to those people talk about them as if it's real, as if they really know what they're talking about. I will continue to stomp a mud hole in these guys and march it dry, as my dad used to say, because I take these things so seriously. And again, breathing and relaxing and not reacting. We're doing that. We're smiling, and then we're going to go eat. Okay. Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.